Eddie, what are you saying about check express lines at certain grocery stores?
So I went to H-E-B really quick before coming over to get us some beer, so we could have some beer for this podcast. And of course, it's Sunday. H-E-B, it's going to be packed no matter what H-E-B you go to. For some reason, 99.9% of the population on the earth decides it's a good time to grocery shop on Sunday. So it's packed as hell, which is fine. I mean, it happens. But the express line took forever. It took me like 15 minutes in that express line. I probably should have just hopped over to a regular line. It's like, what's the cap? It's like 12 items, 12, 15 items?
I think H-E-B's 15 and I think Walmart's 10.
I think Walmart's 20.
Or it varies.
Right.
I've seen multiple numbers at different stores. So I don't know. I've literally seen 10, I've seen 15, I've seen 20.
Either way, it didn't go by very fast at all. And I was only behind 2 people. I mean, most of it probably had to do with the fact that this person had a lot of fruit, so they were constantly like having the cashier had to like, oh, weigh it, count it, do that, whatever, do some jumping jacks, do a push-up,
get your whole health kick on while you're at it.
Yeah, pretty much. And then, then the girl was trying to pay with change too. She was trying to like match the change, so she pulled out a whole bunch of pennies and dimes and nickels, and I'm over here like, sigh, you know.
That's a long side too. Damn.
Mm-hmm. And then her friend that was with her was one of my ex-students. So I was just kind of like, my head buried in my phone, like, nope, not about socializing today. Not going to happen.
For music academy?
Yeah. I was like, nope, not trying to socialize. Not today. No, sir. No thanks. It's Sunday. Sundays aren't for socializing.
I do that like every day of the week.
You what?
I do that like every day of the week.
Not socialize or socialize?
Not socialize.
If I can help it, I feel the same. If I can help not socializing, I probably won't.
I think I mentioned this at some point. Well, in the last episode, I was like, I'm not very social. I kind of keep to myself.
Yeah.
It's a good way to be.
Stay out of trouble that way.
Yep. I don't know, like it's a weird on and off switch for me, the whole like introvert extrovert thing. And I feel like most of the time I have no control over the switch. It just happens.
Are you an ambivert?
Is that what you call it?
I read that somewhere. People who are both at different times.
That describes me very well. Like the past couple of gigs we've had, I've like tried to be more extroverted on purpose, and so hopefully it comes out a little bit better. But for the most part, I'd rather shut the hell up.
You know what they say about socializing?
What?
If you force it, it's probably crap. Like a fart.
I thought that's what they use for love.
I think it can apply in like a lot of different situations.
It probably can, yeah. That's pretty accurate. Yeah, it can definitely apply all over. But speaking of gigs, man, last night I was so exhausted that entire third set. I felt so out of shape.
I don't know what to say to that because you sounded okay. You had asked me at some point like how do you. I'm like I thought you sounded good. You know how you feel. I've always said that you know how your body feels. You should listen to your body. But it was very interesting for you to feel like that. I wondered, what took a toll to where up to yesterday, it was just enough.
I don't know. I think a lot of it, I came crashing down because of the break. And I've always thought like, man, if we could just play 3 hours straight and not take a break, I'd really like to try that and see if it makes a difference for my energy and the level of all that.
I feel like that after the first set. I mean, we'll go out and I'm ready. I mean, fine, I know what I have to do, but I do feel like that after the first set almost every single time. Because I feel like the first set we kind of warm up and whatnot, but then like you get up to a certain point and then you have to wait. And I'm also down for like the 3 hour thing. That one time I played with you and then, in Brownsville, and I did like the 4 hour thing. I played with you and her, and like it was good. Like, yeah, I was exhausted after, but I didn't stop. I just kept going. And I preferred that over. And then what we see in Nashville too, off Broadway and whatnot. These bands that go and play forever. It's awesome. To me, it's awesome. Like I've heard different opinions here in the Valley, and I'm like, no, like that's good. Like that's how you. And honestly, that's how I feel like that's how you get tips as well. Like you keep playing, you keep them entertained, you keep
people stick
going.
around.
Yeah,
People don't leave. Unless they're just really having a shitty time with you playing anyway, so they're gonna leave.
Right. Yeah, I mean those you can't control, but like if you can play and still do your job regardless, the people will stay more than likely. One thing that came on that podcast we were listening to yesterday on the road, as far as playing different genre music in intermissions and whatnot, I think that has a lot to do with it too. And that's all probably a good thing for the venue, but then that messes up everything for the bands.
Yeah, and I feel like that's especially true with the scenarios they were talking about, whereas they're playing at, venues that are you go on and you have an opener and then it's you and you do your 90-minute, mostly original thing, and then you get off and then you go do it the next night and et cetera, et cetera. Mm-hmm. Versus we are just kind of entertainment for 3 hours, 4 hours, whatever.
Right.
So we're just expected to be there and sing Neon Moon until people lose their minds.
That still blows my mind. I don't mind playing it. I don't mind playing it ever. It just blows my mind that how short of a what's the look we're looking for, like attention span that we have, but yet those songs just get played over and over, and it always gets their attention.
Yeah, I mean I get it. It's a good song. Neon Moon's a good song. Don't get me wrong. It's just I don't know. It's
like what kind of dichotomy is that, where short attention span, but yet those particular songs stick forever and will stick forever.
Well, I mean, I get it. Like, they're timeless songs, and they're going to be timeless for a reason. They're very well written, very catchy, and, like, content is there. It's very relatable. It sticks. But, damn it, I want to play and hear something new every now and then.
Right, no, absolutely, absolutely. You're going to say something, Brian?
Yeah, well, I mean, I was just going to say that maybe it's not, like, there's no correlation between a good song and short attention span. Maybe it's just a good, catchy song, and people like to hear it.
Yeah. Maybe that's all it is.
Yeah.
There's the Neon Moons, the Wagon Wheels, the Copperhead Roads, the Cupid Shuffles, the Wobbles.
And actually, interesting enough, like when they were bringing up the Wobble and whatnot, like those songs came out like in 2006, 2008. Like that's almost 10 years ago now, which is so crazy.
Catchy. And the lyrics, man.
Mm-hmm. Right, yeah, right. Especially for those like line dance, quote unquote, pop songs, those group dance songs that everybody just wants. But what just got me was just the fact that it's been that long that those songs have been out, and now their time of songs fine, but for me it's the time that they're still like the songs, you will never miss them, you won't confuse them. Mm-hmm. Bars won't leave them out.
Wow, Neon Moon's runtime is 4 minutes and 26 seconds. Can you imagine a 4-minute, 26-second song on radio now?
I didn't even realize that. So that's a minute less.
Yeah, I'm looking it up right now because I wanted to get the year. And the duration of the song is 4 minutes and 26 seconds.
People would flip.
21. The official is 4 minutes, 21 seconds.
Even then, radios would flip, right?
Yeah, they would see that and not even bother to put it in the player. They just 4 minutes, 21 seconds, trash. Too long. And it came out in 1992.
That's crazy.
Mm-hmm.
Damn it.
And now you're just trying to stay within 330, now, right? Is that what it is?
Yeah.
More or less?
Between 3:30 and 4, and if they even see the number 4, they're already hesitant to play it.
That's crazy. I think that's a good show of short attention span. They probably think, too long. Listeners are not going to stick around. They're going to change the station.
And they're not wrong. Yeah.
Yeah.
For the most part, right?
For the most part, yeah. And then that's also the they need more space to sell ads and stuff like that. So if you're taking up a whole extra 30 seconds or a whole extra minute of ad time they could be selling, then yeah, they're really not about it.
Well, what I'm going to bring up after this situation, after I just consoled with myself of what I did, what came up to me is, have you ever had anything mess up that it wasn't career affecting? It's not like maybe career direct, but it's just something personal that like maybe you messed it up, and it was more important to you than others. Others are detached from this situation, so they don't feel like that emotional connection. In this case, I messed up the podcast, so I was very upset with myself. Okay, it happened. Now I'm okay, But have you guys ever had that experience where you come something, personal, not necessarily career altering or, anything like that, but just something where you felt it that maybe in retrospect you were very attached to that situation?
Yeah, but I'm gonna pass the mic to Brian after I say this so I can think about a situation where this happened. But from the top of my head, it really only gets like that with situations where it affects other people. Just like, I guess, in this way that me and Brian are a part of this podcast like you are, so you're responsible for the editing and putting it up and the actual content itself, the recorded content, and then you lost it. So of course you feel bad because it also affected me and Brian. But with me and Brian's standpoint, it's like, whatever, we'll just meet up this afternoon and drink some beer and record it again.
Right, and that's the thing, like when Brian's, because I knew Brian was working today, so I'm like, man, okay, I wasn't gonna ask you guys to come tonight. We had the backup one, so I was like, okay, we have that. Wasn't gonna worry about it, but then when you guys offered to record today, I was like, okay, that's where I was able to come to just my own consensus to like, okay, let's just do it again, remark what we can and move forward.
Yep.
Yeah, I was down to do it because this whole week I've been working all week, Monday through Sunday. So it was like, like it doesn't even matter like that I work tomorrow. It's all good. But
that's gross that you worked all week.
I know it has to be done.
I really couldn't believe it when I saw your snap before I texted you, and I was like, this guy's at work. I'm like, man, I couldn't believe it. That's crazy.
Yeah.
Not on a Sunday.
Fun day.
Not on a Sunday. Saturday, okay, I get it. Full day Saturday, but you basically had a full day today too. So you worked 7 days straight, full shifts.
And who knows if I'll get next weekend off.
Yeah,
that's how. Well, I won't get into it.
Oh, busy. You're just busy. The company's busy. You're moving, and things need to get done to keep going.
Yep. So back to that question.
Yes.
At least for me, like, I can't remember something in recently, and I feel that I always pretty much detach from the situation because I don't want to dwell on it. So it's kind of forgotten, but I think the same thing applies that Eddie said. When it affects other people, I feel really bad about it because it's not just my time and effort or how I feel about the situation. It affects other people. So, but when something like that happens, like I think that I find it best that you can't dwell on it. You just kind of got to move on and adjust, get it done. Find an alternative. Yeah.
Grr.
Well,
I'm saying for me. I'm saying I hear you guys. It's like, but else, for me, it's one of those things that I always talk about. Like, I guess, preaching and doing. So when because you guys are detached in this situation, this current situation, and it's like, okay, I hear what you guys are saying, and I don't disagree. I still feel it. It just takes time to like just kind of come back down to zero, and like be really okay with it. Because I'm still not okay with it, but it's gonna just take me a little bit to like, okay.
Yeah, I think this
after we're done with this, I'll be like, okay, I need to edit this and just get back to work. Basically, that's all I'm gonna do. Just get back to work. And
we're live.
Yeah.
We're live. It's fine.
Yeah.
I can think of a time. I know you said not necessarily career-wise, but I'm gonna use a career example. Sorry.
Okay.
So the first time we were supposed to play, the first time we've only played there one time. The time that we were supposed to play Bourbon Street in McAllen on my birthday.
Yeah, I remember.
Which is July 31st for anybody listening. If you want to give me gifts, but
nobody's listening.
It's also Harry Potter's birthday, actually, which is a J.K. Rowling's birthday. Fun fact.
Nice. I didn't know that.
Mm-hmm.
August 27th, you said?
Damn it. July 31st. Anyway, we're supposed to play there at Bourbon Street on my birthday, and we'd set that up maybe a couple of months prior. And so I kind of dropped the ball as far as making sure that everything was good to go. And I didn't do that until maybe like a couple of days before when I really should have been doing it the week before, but I forget what was going on around that time, and it just slipped my mind. I wasn't focused in. So I forgot to just call and confirm, like, hey, we're on this weekend? Cool. Yes? Apparently we weren't. So it was like 2 days before the gig, and the guy's like, yeah, I don't have you on the calendar. And I was like, what? And so now we had this whole big fiasco, and they owned up to it. Like, it was a scheduling mishap on their end because I had all the proof, like over text message and phone call that we had, set that date up, and they didn't mark it down, and they instead got a DJ that night.
I remember.
Wow.
Yeah. So we were without a gig that weekend, and I was like, well, damn it. Like, and of course, like the major fault is that of the person that booked the gig, who did not mark it down on their calendar, and they owned up to it, which was cool of them to do. Not a lot of people necessarily do, but I still felt bad for not checking in sooner.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Well, I remember you calling that night, or the night. I guess it was the night before, because you had called, I guess, that Friday or whatever, and I was like, okay, cool. Like, I mean, okay, like that's a good example of, like, you know, me being detached from you being the CEO and having to deal with booking on a daily basis, not just a weekly basis, but daily thing to call and reference back and make sure everything's settled for us to, you know, work and get paid. But I do remember that. I'm like, it's okay, Eddie. Like, take a deep breath. I remember talking to you about that. Just we're good. You know, you're on my end. You're good. You know, make mistakes happens. You know, now it'd be different if let's just say, you know, you double booked and you forgot to, you know, it was you changing your calendar. It was you, you know, that, you know, had that mishap, you know, writing it in, but it wasn't. I mean, that I guess I've also had those gigs happen before as well, so I was able to just, okay, this happened. This is reality. That I mean, we're humans. We make mistakes, and I was okay with it. You know, you have to tell everybody else. So, you know, everybody took their own piece, you know, as far as how they felt about, you know, this double book, quote unquote booking, you know, mishap. So I do remember that distinctly.
Yeah, I hated it so much, and I was so frustrated, kind of like the way you're frustrated now with accidentally deleting a recorded podcast that we hadn't put out yet that we were going to put out, well, because like it affects your payout because you're supposed to get paid from that. I was supposed to get paid from that. Whoops, names. But anyway, you know, the band was supposed to get paid from that, and then we're just going to lay there and not get paid. But we turned it into a net positive. We went to Hillbillies for my birthday, and I got.
Yeah, you did. I remember that. I was like, what do we do for that? That's when we ended up at Hillbillies. That was the last time I went to Hills for a long time, like a few months.
I remember that, and I wasn't even there.
Yeah, it was a fun time. Manager who's become a really good friend, like got us shots and stuff. It was
and
a
some
good time.
more.
And some more.
And some more.
Yeah. That was a good time. We had some other good friends there that were down for the summer from school, from grad school, law school,
which is so
stuff
awesome.
like that. Yeah.
Heck yeah. It was good to see you catch up.
Absolutely. Speaking of booking gigs, though, I was so relieved and also nervous as hell to finally book us an outside of town gig.
Yes.
Yeah. Out of town gig. Should have said that. Instead of outside of town. What is that? No one says outside of town. Out of town.
You're setting trends, Eddie Science.
Starting new ones. I'm tired of the old stuff.
You put that in lyrics.
I almost failed to get us that one, actually, because I've been in contact with that person from that venue for a while, for the past several weeks. And, you know, they were just always busy, and they're like, yeah, I'm going to check your email. I'll get back to you. It's cool, whatever. And then they finally got back to me today, like, hey, do you have a fan base around this area? And, I mean, I'm not going to lie about it. I told them, like, I mean, no. Like, my fan base in that area is still in a birthing stage because I've only ever played there one time, and it was with another person where we did a song swap.
Right.
So, I mean, it's, like, very early in the fan stage for me. But I have had several people from that area that were there that night that saw that show that were asking when I was going to be coming back to play again because they really enjoyed it. Yeah.
Right.
So I took screenshots of that and I sent her. I was like, I don't really have a fan base there necessarily, but I have people that, you know, it's getting there. It's in the birthing stage. There's proof of concept.
Right. I say exactly. You're getting that feedback already.
Yeah. There's some feedback going on. And this person goes, okay. And that was it. And I was like, this isn't good. And I put, so we're going to be able to book a date there, because if so, I'd really like to set that up for the future and start, you know, routing around it and et cetera, et cetera. And this person basically told me, like, yeah, like, you need to be able to draw in 30 to 50 people. And my response to that was basically, he's like, well, I was like, I mean, I've only ever played there one time. He's like, all I need is one night. After that, I'm sure I can get people back in the door in the future. So whoever's there is going to love it. I'm positive. I was like, I believe in my music and my message and what I'm doing enough that it's going to draw some people in over time. And so I was like, all I need is one night. Just take the risk. Because like if it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. All I need is one night. And if not, what are some other venues around that area that I can focus on to build a fan base to eventually play your room?
Right, exactly. Or even that, build your room like business that you're gonna give somebody else that they could start with you now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Money now is better than money tomorrow.
Yes. And so we basically worked out the deal for it to be us taking a percentage of the door instead of a base pay.
Yeah, that's fine. Hey, even when you brought that up, I'm like, okay, like it's gonna be our first time. Even us that are going up, it's gonna be the first time. So it's not. I mean, it's gonna be a fun trip either way. Like we're gonna have a good time. We've always had a good time. So we're gonna that will bring that energy up up to where's the Conroe, and then we'll proceed from there. And hopefully we'll be back soon after that.
Yeah, well, I see the acts that they got playing there right now, and I'm like, yeah, like we fit into that category.
That's good. That's good. I haven't done much research on that.
It's a neat place. It's like a half listening room, half bar restaurant kind of thing.
Oh yeah, we definitely. I can see that.
Yeah, but their focus is on like songwriters.
Good.
They appreciate songwriters.
That's part of the main thing, especially for your writing, is that you want listening rooms, you want quote unquote venues, as I said on the Bad Truth podcast. But
right,
at least that type of venue. There's still different type of venue, because then you have that one. You have Brewster Street, which is totally not totally different, but it's just a different room. It's a different way of doing things.
Yeah. Anyway, that made me feel really proud this afternoon, but also really scared to like finally have that going.
Yeah.
Because then I have to think about the logistics now. Because what's that saying? It's like Sturgill Simpson said this recently on an interview. I think with like Charlie Rose or someone like that on BBC. Anyway, irrelevant. The quote was something like, "Well, you know what they say about hard work. Hard work is rewarded with more hard work."
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, so it's just okay. I worked, I guess, kind of hard to book this gig. Like I really pushed it.
Yeah, you pushed right. You pushed your case.
Pushed my case. Really, just went all in on it and persevered through it until she didn't tell me no. And then we set something up. So okay, now I gotta promote the show. Probably gonna make a flyer, get a graphic designer to make a flyer, send it to them so they can hang it up in their venue and start promoting within good time. And then, of course, I got to promote it on my end, probably take out some sponsored advertisements on social media and et cetera, and like aim it at a target audience. So this is going to be like a whole new thing that I've never had to do before that I'm going to have to be a pro at now. So I'm just going to do my best to execute that and hopefully set us up for success when we get up there so we can make some good cash and have a good gig. Have enough money to get home.
Yeah, right. Yeah, break even.
Mm-hmm.
Or just stay up there and gig until you make enough money to come back home.
Well, I'll probably try to find us a routing gig. Like I'll probably try to get us at Little Woodrow's in San Antonio.
Ooh, that'd be a good one.
Like the night before.
Mm-hmm.
And then and then get up there and get some gas money with that. That's a cash gig.
That'd be good.
Cash gig.
And that'll be fun anyway. We've been before, so
mm-hmm.
hopefully we can promote that and it will be back there and it'll be good. Have a good turnout.
Yep, for sure. Now, Conroe is in the Houston area, so I don't know how effective it would be to... I guess for us it's kind of not necessarily on the way, but it's just a little bit of a...
Well, I was going to say, it's honestly not that far.
No, it's just a little bit of
It's shorter than going from the Valley to Houston or from the Valley to even San Antonio. Like that distance from San Antonio to Conroe/Houston is not that far. You're there before you know it. You take I-10 back that way and you're good to go.
Cool. Sounds good.
Yeah, it's not that big a deal. As far as time, the space, you're going in a triangle from the Valley to Houston to San Antonio back home. It's actually a pretty good triangle, I think. As far as timing, either which way.
That's fair. Yeah, but so I felt really good, really accomplished about that, and now I just got to grind that much more for that gig. Make sure it goes well. So I'm nervous as hell, but kind of excited. Mostly excited, but kind of nervous. Mostly nervous, kind of excited. Just goes in a never-ending circle of nervous excitement.
Until you get there, you get the gig done, you succeed, and you are satisfied.
And then you're like, okay, when are we coming back?
And then you push the envelope even further.
Yeah, exactly.
Pretty much, though. That's how it goes. It'll be nice to have a gig where the focus is mostly the originals and pushing that.
Yes, because I cannot wait till that record comes out. And everybody listening, for the record, it's going to be awesome.
I hope people receive it well. I hope it doesn't like fly over a lot of people's heads. It's not, in my opinion, like not like to brag on my project, but I don't think it's in the slightest bit a mindless piece of material.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
I do agree.
Like, there's some engagement required.
Right, and that's where I hope people actually listen to what you're trying to say. That's what I would argue is listen to what he's trying to say. There's some good stuff on there.
Well, I hope it comes across, and like most of the feedback I get when we are out of town, like that one time we played at what was it, the Lot in Dallas. Yes. Some dude told me, "Hey man, like your voice and your stuff really remind me of like the Ryan Bingham, like Jason Isbell kind of thing," and I was like, he gets it.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, one person got it. There was like 100 people there that night at least, but one person got it.
Well, that's what you want. Statistically speaking, for every 100 people, you only expect 5% response.
And he's just the one that told you about it.
Yeah.
Maybe there were others who had the same impression and just didn't get to tell you.
Right.
Yeah, maybe.
But that's what I learned. I mean, that's something I learned through more. At the beginning, it was all theory, but now putting it into context with like you and then like different things on other businesses that I guess I help and oversee. That it seems to be pretty accurate. For every 100 people, you're gonna get about 5% response, which is 5 people. So that's your max. So 100, so you can go to 1,000. That's 10. You go to 10,000. That's 100. You go up. That's their increments, and that's what you're working with.
Interesting, man. Customer acquisition is a hell of a thing.
Yes, it is.
Yeah,
it's very much a thing. It's as important as anything else.
Yeah, and I guess that's why I like watching the show Shark Tank so much, because like I learn a lot from the people who are doing so poorly with their business. Because I like to put myself in their shoes, like and just even if I'm not necessarily doing poor with my own business, which I mean I probably am sometimes, most times, but I at least like to put myself in their shoes and then think about all the problems that the sharks are pointing out with their business, and then I try to draw a parallel to my own. Right?
Right, yeah, absolutely.
So customer acquisition would be a thing. So how much does it cost me to acquire a customer, acquire a listener? How much does it cost me? It's like, well, it cost me the gas to get to the gig. It cost me the money to pay you guys, and then it's all the in-betweeners there.
Yeah, well, the gas to get to and from the gig.
Yeah.
We have to get back home. That's why you put, gigs in between gigs so you can at least make some money and then get gas to get home. Have gas to get home.
I guess the intricate thing about customer acquisition in the field of music is that when one person gets really fired up about your music, they tend to tell other people about it, or at least play it around other people, and then hopefully it, kind of the wildfire effect.
Mm-hmm. I was going to say, I feel like at some point everybody thought that social media was like the thing, but I've learned that word of mouth is just as effective.
Word of mouth is still better, I think. Yeah. From what I can tell. And what's even scarier is that if they don't like it, it'll spread even faster.
Oh, God, yes.
Yeah.
But there's no such thing as bad publicity. No such thing.
You get negative response, but you're still getting your name said.
Like if somebody says, "Hey, this guy's music sucks," listen to
it. Go
it.
check it out on Spotify.
Yeah, they're still gonna listen to it, and I bet not everybody will think that it sucks, and you'll have publicity, you'll have new listeners regardless. Yeah. You'll still get plays on Spotify.
I'm not saying I want to be the Rebecca Black of country music, but it's better than being the nothing of country music, I guess.
There's many artists that do that now, and they just promote it a different way. But it's the same thing.
The one thing, though, that I will refuse to do is like sing songs or write songs for the sake of, I guess, pleasing other people. And I know that sounds like the complete opposite of what needs to be happening. But like if I'm gonna get on stage like 2, 3, 4 nights out of the week and have to sing songs that I don't like or that I'm not proud of, then what's the point?
Yeah, that's interesting because I wonder how some mainstream artists really feel about that, because they promote like, oh, they love it, but I don't know. I mean, I'm not judging or saying anything beyond that, but it's like, man, like, how can you lie about it? And I wonder.
I do too. And story time. So, going into my senior year of college, I was contacted by a management company in Nashville. They mostly managed Christian artists, but they had a little bit of success with a few country acts, specifically duos. So what they had contacted me for was to pair up with this guy that they found who was also of Hispanic heritage, and he's from California, and so they wanted us to team up and be like basically what Dan and Shay is now for country music, like the Hispanic or Latin American or whatever duo for country music, right? And so that was going to be us, and I was like, well, this is better than nothing, so I might as well entertain this and see what it's about and meet with these people and meet this other guy and see what's up. And so this all happened a couple weeks before I left back to Nashville. So I got back to Nashville, and then within that same week, I had a meeting with them. Went to go sit down with them in their offices and talk about all that stuff. And so I met this guy, and we went and we got some beers together. And he's super nice guy, super chill. Our music taste and our vision for what we wanted to do musically as individuals didn't really match up. So working as a team, like as a duo, to me seemed a very distant possibility at that point because we were so completely different in our music tastes and the kind of music we wanted to be writing and be performing, be singing, etc., etc. But I'm still writing it out at this point. I'm giving it a shot, and these people start shopping us around town and like finding us songs. And so, we're meeting and we're going over some songs they're sending us and whatever. And I'm just not really feeling any of these, quote unquote country pop songs,
Okay.
And I'm just not feeling it. He really is. A couple weeks go by and I'm just kind of like, yeah, this isn't really for me. And I was very torn up getting to that decision because it seemed like it could have gone somewhere and it could have gotten me a lot of connections. And a lot of people were telling me, just write it out for the connections. Maybe you don't stick with it, but write it out for the connections. And I was like, yeah, like I understand, but I don't know. So I was telling my voice coach about this, who's also basically like one of my best friends and like a huge mentor to me, not just musically, but like in life,
Right.
And I'm telling him about this, and he happens to know a guy that was managed by the same manager. So he gives me his contact info, and I get a hold of this guy, and I'm like, hey, like so-and-so told me to reach out to you. This is my situation. And, this guy was telling me that they used to be managed by this manager, and what was your experience like, yada, 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 et cetera, et cetera. So he gets back to me, and we have a phone call, and he's basically telling me, like, yeah, this manager, like, basically like skimmed like millions of dollars like under the table from us. Damn. When he was managing us. Like he ripped us pretty bad. I was like, wow, that's pretty nuts. Don't want that to happen to me for sure. Anyway, and so he goes beyond this manager like taking advantage of us financially. He goes like, going back to your situation, like you're saying like this is music that you don't even really care to be performing or singing, so why is it even a question, Because like when you get in front of an audience and you try to perform something that you don't believe in, they're going to know.
Right.
And that was his advice. So I was like, all right, well, I guess the answer's pretty easy from here. So I'm out. Yeah. So I told the manager, I'm done. I don't want to be a part of the situation. Appreciate the opportunity. No bad blood, whatever.
Yeah. Still a business. And that's another thing that I know I've been fighting with myself as far as like that, like everybody's like, oh, I need to make a living, I need to put food on the table. I'm like you're really willing to go against what you believe, what you think. We're talking music, just music. I mean, there's other things that out of your control, but when it comes to doing entertainment and doing a service like that, putting money in front of the art and the craft, I have trouble relating or even like accepting that.
Yeah, it defeats the whole purpose of why we maybe started playing or performing or writing in the first place. So it's kind of like, what's the point? Yeah. The other guy, though, the guy I was supposed to be a duet partner with, took it pretty bad. He was pretty butthurt about it.
Let's say he liked it. Well, that's his thing. You know, he was attached because he was down for the situation. He was down for the project.
Well, and he'd also, I guess, I mean, I'm not in his shoes, right? I'm not living his life, so I could be completely wrong. But the conclusion that I drew from knowing him and learning about him and his career path, he had been told no a whole bunch of times. Like, just he'd, taken a whole bunch of no hits, basically. Okay. And so someone finally told him, yes, but contingency, you're going to be a duo with another person because we don't think you can like hold the stage on your own. And so I was like, if someone told me that, I'd feel terrible, and I would just probably work on my own stuff.
I was gonna say just work on performance.
Yeah,
and honestly, the only way to do that is play gigs. You gotta get out there. You gotta play shows. Like they were talking about that podcast we listened to yesterday. As far as practicing a bunch at home and knowing every single lick, but you get in front and you just have stage fright. This stage fright, or you lose it or something, and then you can't perform. It's like that's where you need to be able to transition that theory to context. That'd be that situation. Example.
You have to be able to execute when it actually counts.
Yep.
Yeah. But anyway, so this guy had been told no so many times. So this was like finally he'd done something worthy, and we were going to be a duo, and finally his career is going to take off in some sort. I will admit to you, I was a very young and arrogant and naive human being then. So the way I handled the situation with him wasn't necessarily something I'm proud of.
Yeah.
So like I basically didn't even tell him like that I was like out. I just told the manager, and that was it. I figured, well, they'll tell him.
Yeah.
So
yeah, it's a lot easier to do that.
Yeah, and so he still wanted to hear it from me though. So he was contacting me left and right through every outlet, through email, text message, phone call, voicemail, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, everything. He was messaging me like, hey man, like, are we still down, like, practice this week or rehearse this week or get together for a beer or something? Like, what's going on? Did you get to, we had been issued contracts too. So, and that's basically when things got serious for me. It's like, okay, well, I can't necessarily ride this out for a couple of weeks anymore. This is going to be riding it out for a whole year.
Right, yeah, you're under.
When coming down to the contract. So I was like, that's when I decided to, make that decision and get out before I had to sign anything. And so he was concerned that I hadn't signed my contract yet, and he signed his on the spot when they issued it to us in the office, which I was like, dude, you really need to smarten up here.
Yeah. I don't disagree with that. I'm very careful with stuff like that now, because any word or anything that can just alter everything.
Yeah,
I see that.
That's nuts. And anyways, he signed that contract so fast. He was so ready for it. And I actually got someone to look at mine and give me pointers, and there was a whole bunch of discrepancies with the contract that my entertainment lawyer thought needed to be looked at again and changed. But anyway, I guess that's kind of irrelevant. So this guy was contacting me left and right, and I just never got back to him. Even his girlfriend tried calling me.
That's extensive.
Hey, you haven't gotten back to so-and-so.
Yeah.
What's going on?
Right. Is everything okay?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, I was really I handled that situation so terribly. I feel bad about it. And so one night, I was in a bar that I'm never in. There in Nashville. It's called the Tin Roof on DeMundrian.
Yeah.
I was never, ever a regular at that bar. But the people I was with for that night that I was hanging out with wanted to go to that bar, and I was all right, whatever, I'll deal with it. Get some drinks,
right,
relax, I guess. Try to, with all the frat guys and sorority chicks around from Vanderbilt. The bad ones, not the good ones like me and Brian.
Oh,
the ones that do really gnarly things.
Yeah, I get it.
Anyways, the ones that cause trouble,
Yeah.
the ones that are always like trying to like pick fights for no reason. Anyway, so we're at this bar, and I run into this guy in the restroom. Like I'm like waiting in line at the men's room, and he's there.
The other half of your duo?
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah. So, and this was a few months after the fact, so it was the first time running into him. And remember, I had never gotten back to him or his girlfriend or anyone else that he tried to get to contact me. So, like, yeah, awkward. So they're in line, and at this point, like, I was pretty drunk as a skunk, man. Like, I was buzzing pretty hard. And so I go up to the guy. I'm like, "Hey, man."
You went up to him.
Yeah.
Wow.
I've never heard this story. Go, keep going.
"Hey, man, like, so good to see you. How you been?" God bless, I was pretty gone. And he just looks at me like so disgusted, man. And, you know, he shakes my hand and he's like, "Yeah, been good. You know, really straight face, whatever. And I just get right into it and I tell him, "Hey, man, I'm really sorry for how I handled that whole situation. I really should have been a better human being about that. And I should have, you know, responded back to your messages and, you know, been honest with you about how I was feeling and that I was going to, you know, walk out on the deal, basically." And I just told him, like, I'm super sorry, man. I totally apologize for that. And I hope we can, like, put it behind us. And it's nothing against you and nothing against the manager or whatever. It's just, you know, my own thing. And he was just like, "Yeah, man, you're young. You'll learn." He's like, what an asshole. But
Wow.
You had it coming, Eddie.
I take it back.
I take it back.
But yeah. So he didn't even really accept my apology necessarily. And then some other drunken frat hole, whatever, like decides to kick in the stall on where some dude is, you know, going number 2.
Oh man.
And then so and my other half of the duo, like, you know, in the middle of our conversation, like sees that happen. He's like, "Hey, man, what are you doing? Don't be like that. Don't be a
Wow.
dick." And he like starts like almost about to choke this guy out for being an asshole.
Wow.
He's a really big guy. He's a gym trainer. Like, he's very fit. He's actually like a CrossFit champion now. Yeah.
Dang.
So he
Because of you.
yeah, pretty much. I'm responsible for his CrossFit success. But that's what he did with his life. That's what he's doing with his life right now. Like, I guess after that, figured the music thing wasn't going to work out, so he went really hard into the gym training thing, which was his job, you know, to pay bills.
Yeah, right.
He went really hard and all in on that, and he's like a CrossFit champion now, and
Dang.
it's pretty nuts. Yeah,
Well, he's huge. Then yeah, those CrossFit competitors are ridiculous.
yeah, he's a very fit individual, very, very fit.
I have some very narrow opinions about CrossFit, but I'm not gonna get into them today.
Well, what about him? Like, it doesn't work.
You
It's
brought
not
it
healthy.
up.
Well, in general, in summation, it's all I see it as wear and tear on your joints. And if you do wrong technique, like, it starts with techniques. You can't even do, I mean, some people are doing, like, you know, let's say 100 deadlifts or whatever in, like, let's say 5 minutes, right, whatever. If you're doing wrong technique, you're not only going to get hurt, you're never going to move again, more than likely. You're going to break your spine, you're going to do something. And I definitely would like to go into a tangent about that later, but I'm not going to right now. But that's all I see right now. In general, it's wear and tear on your joints, and it's gonna. And you think you're hurting right now? Like, I'd say after, like, post CrossFit workout, these people are doing, like, quote what are they called, WODs, you know, whatever, workout of the days. When they're doing that, and they're doing it, you know, early in the morning, and then, like, oh, by the end of the week they quote unquote sore or they're hurting. Imagine in a year. Imagine in 2 years. Imagine in 3 years. Okay, imagine in 10 years. That's what I'm saying. Just work out and be healthy.
It's important to develop good habits.
Yeah. Because when I'm working with clients at the gym I work at, I pin that. And when it gets too busy, sometimes I can't get too deep into the technique. But people are now starting to find what I'm about at the gym, because I'm like, okay, you're doing that wrong. And then like, I know some people that have been there for, like, you know, a couple of years maybe, and they're still, like, doing the same things instead of being able to do more. Now, while maybe goals are different for different people, fine, but if your technique is wrong, that's why you're not able to do more anyways. So even if you wanted to do more, you couldn't, because you're doing wrong technique from the get-go, and I'm not down for that. I feel like if you're gonna make health and working out part of your daily routine, do it right.
Same goes for just about everything. If you're going to do something, might as well do it right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And if it's not a hell yeah, don't do it at all.
Where'd
Hell
you
yeah.
get that from? You got that from somebody. I heard you. You've told me that.
I actually read it. I think in Tools of Titans.
Oh, okay.
I read it. But he got it from somebody else.
Right. No, I
it's in
figured
the
it comes
book.
from somebody, right? Because I remember you saying if it's not a hell yeah, isn't it? It's not Seth Godin.
It might be Sivers.
It might be Derek Sivers, which is actually CD Baby Eddie. That's the guy. He's the guy who sold CD Baby for $20 million.
Gotcha.
Genius. But
I'm a Tunecore user myself. I'm not a CD Baby person.
yeah, I just remember CD Baby when I listened to the Derek Sivers episode on Tim Ferriss. I remember CD Baby because you had mentioned him, Eddie. You had mentioned him at some point. I'm like, oh, that's who. Like, that's the guy. And then when I found out, like, oh no, he's the guy who created, but yet sold it for $20 million. I'm like, oh my god! Imagine creating a company like that that's still existent, and you got like this amount of money at the time. This is years back, but he got $20 million, $22 million.
That's pretty nuts.
Yeah.
And it was, when I read that story, he was talking about how you don't need to spend too much time on a business plan and this and that. It took him like 15 minutes to come up with a business plan.
And I remember it. He walked into like basically a vinyl store or whatever.
Yeah, a local store.
Yeah, just a local record shop in general, right? And he said, "Hey, like, how do you guys do consignment, right?" It was consignment.
Yeah,
They consign records. Like people can take the records, consign, and then they sell them and they get the fee. And he's like, "Okay," and he did that, and that's CD Baby.
Yeah, he was like that. They told him, we charge $4 flat, and you set your price based on that. So he took that home and started his own company.
Yeah, he's like, "I'll charge you $4 for like, let's say, I think," but he also went into like kind of details as far as like let's say 45 minutes of work to like he had to create the database for all these CDs, right? Because he was basically his target market was new artists trying to get music out to sell via e-commerce. So he would, let's say, you're paying for this time, you're paying for this, you're paying for this, and then you pay for that, and then the rest of it go back to you.
Yeah, he determined that his time for doing all that was worth $25. So he's like, I'll charge $25. And then he was like, but wait, what if I want to offer discounts? He's like, so I'll charge $35, and that way I can offer a discount anytime and still make money.
Yep.
Ah, God, those always get me.
It's good, dude. It's good. As we continue this podcast, we'll definitely go into more as Brian continues reading as I continue listening. But there's definitely a lot of those those are the little golden nuggets I talk about.
Yeah.
Like when we're talking about Jocko podcast, when Brian Stan talked about it, talked this past Wednesday. There's a lot of golden nuggets. Had I stopped listening to Jocko, I wouldn't have heard Brian Stan. He's I believe a 3rd Battalion, 2nd Marines, Silver Star recipient that was on a Jocko podcast this past week. And he talks about, of course, leadership and different elements that he learned while being in the Marines and being overseas.
Very cool.
But, yeah.
Might have to check that out, man. I haven't given Jocko a listen in a minute.
Yeah.
Hot minute.
Honestly, I've been more heavy on I have to say a Tim Ferriss spiel for like the past like 3-4 months, but I won't miss Jocko podcast on Wednesdays.
Tim Ferriss is so good. Like, Tools of Titans. You guys listening, like, I'm not going to say you need the book, but if you want to succeed, it would be super, super helpful. It has interviews with, like, some of the most successful people in the world, artists and, entertainment, billionaires, athletes.
Give a few examples of, like, billionaires and successful people.
Arnold.
Yeah, Arnold Schwarzenegger's for sure in there. I don't know too many other people that, that people know.
Mm-hmm.
But there's doctors, there's athletes, there's Olympic trainers, there's all sorts of people.
The main ones that stuck out to me that I have yet to listen to, I haven't listened to any of Arnold Schwarzenegger's episodes, but
That's
also
a really good one.
Arnold Schwarzenegger, Jamie Foxx. The one that surprised me that I did listen to was Mike Rowe, Dirty Jobs on Discovery Channel. His story and his built up to what Dirty Jobs is now and what came of Dirty Jobs, which was like 50 more shows worldwide, is insane. And now that's why Mike Rowe, he's just chilling now. He's good to go because he has all these shows that were developed because of Dirty Jobs. And so basically any show on Discovery that you hear Mike Rowe narrate, that's his show. That's his creation that was primed from or made out of Dirty Jobs.
It's his business. He's making money off of that.
Yeah.
I love that story about Mike Rowe. And I think he has his own podcast, actually.
Yes, he does.
Okay, good. I'm not crazy, so I have listened to it. There's one where he talks about having to sell pencils on like the QVC format. I don't think it was QVC specifically, but it was that kind of thing. The TV sale thing.
Yeah, that was one of his first jobs.
Well, yeah, I was gonna say, was that before?
That was one of his first jobs. That's actually part of his biography. He worked for QVC for a long time over the midnight what's it called, graveyard shift for QVC. That's one of his stories. That's him. That's his biography.
I love that pencil story. It's awesome.
Could you tell it?
I only remember like the certain specific parts about it.
Well, say it, and I'll try to help you out.
Well, about when they were basically given the impossible task of selling a freaking pencil. Like it's a freaking pencil. Like everyone has a pencil, whatever.
Right.
It's like it's not a hard thing to find, and he has to sell the shit out of it for like what time limit did they give him?
Like it's like 3 minutes. It was.
I thought it was more than that. I
Was
thought
it?
they said like between 7 to 10 minutes.
Okay, let's say it's 7 to 10. I don't know. We'll have to get back. We'll have to get
Was
back
it
to
more
that.
impressive?
Or
if
it
you
was
say
like,
3?
or it was like keep trying to sell us the pencil until we say stop. I think that's what it was.
Okay, let's say it's any of those 3 variables. Let's say it varies over time, so that's fine. But either way, continue, Eddie.
So he has to come up with unique and interesting and intriguing ways of selling these pencils. So he's just like standard yellow colored pencil, just like every other pencil is colored yellow, for the majority. And he's like, so you know exactly how to find it. It's not like an odd color like a black or a white. Like you're going to see it. It's yellow and a pink eraser. So that color combination, you're going to see it in your desk or whatever. You're going to know immediately that's what I'm looking for. That's the thing I need, and you're going to grab it. So like just basically selling it on the color first and foremost, because you're going to recognize what it is.
Right.
And you're not going to waste time looking for it when you recognize it. Anyway.
Yep. Continue.
So with that, and then he gets like really intricate talking about like, it's writing utensil and like so many things that have been written down of the utmost importance, like the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution of the United States of America and like a whole bunch of stuff. He's just like, he goes off on
one of the
pencils.
one of the examples that he gave for selling the pencil was like, everybody has a pencil, but this one will be yours. This one will be yours. This particular pencil will be yours, and only you can use it. You say who can use it and who can't use it, but ultimately it is yours. You have the final say on who uses and what this pencil is used for.
That sounds super deep.
Yeah,
for a pencil.
Right, exactly, and that's where Eddie's going. Where that's how deep it got, and that's why that particular part stuck out to the pencil story, which I had forgotten about the pencil story in general, but I remember that piece because he's like, this one's yours. And only you can use it. You can say who uses it, and what it's gonna be used for. You sign a contract, a $20 million contract. Of course, it's gonna be in pen, but let's just say you're using a pencil back in the day. You only have pencils or whatever. It's important.
It's the power of the pencil.
It's the power of a writing.
And then he goes off on the and it's number 2, so it's good on Scantrons and like formal tests.
Being
and
able to
whatever.
sell to multiple markets.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So he goes from Scantrons and school to business use, and note taking and whatnot.
Smart dude, man.
It's so good. I don't know. I may put what episode it is on the show notes, but it's definitely one that, you won't know until you listen. But Mike Rowe's story is very interesting, and he started as a opera like singer or something in Baltimore. Like that was his thing, and then he moved on to like actual TV and like that type of showmanship, show work and whatnot, entertainment.
Right. Going back to the CD Baby guy for a second, did he start that company before iTunes, or was that after iTunes?
I don't remember the time.
Yeah, I want to say it's after because iTunes has kind of been out for a while. I want to say it was after, but his target was new artists, that are trying to make it not really mainstream. Maybe now because a lot of people know about it, they probably put the marketing to it. But
well, I ask because first of all, I guess like for no one or for anyone listening that your life does not revolve around music or you're not trying to make a career out of music, iTunes changed the game forever and ever and ever. Amen. Like Steve Jobs totally wrecked the music industry by creating iTunes, right? So when he created iTunes, he basically made it possible for people to just purchase single songs, right? And you don't have to go to the Walmart or to your record shop or whatever and buy the whole CD just to listen to the one song that you wanted to get, okay? So he made it possible to just purchase the 99-cent song. And then it goes right to your computer. And then from your computer, it goes right to your iPod. So because of that, physical CD sales have gone way down, like way down since that creation of iTunes. And now, like, electronic music is obviously by far the biggest way we consume music. Whether that's streaming or whether that's purchasing on iTunes or whatever, that is the way we consume music
Right,
now.
because even from there, that's where Spotify came out of. All these other outlets that came up.
He did start it before iTunes.
Okay.
That was 1998. iTunes was released 2001.
Gotcha.
Thank you, Brian.
And I asked that's important because CD Baby is also a distributor, an online distributor. So if an independent artist like myself wanted to get my music on iTunes and I didn't want to have to deal with the hassle of emailing Apple and going through their whole process and whatever, which takes forever with them, and I wanted to do it immediately within the span of a week or 2 weeks or a month or whatever, I can do that through CD Baby for a little bit of a fee.
Right, for the fee, you pay the base fee, right?
Yeah. So like pay their subscription fee for however they're going to charge it, and then they distribute your stuff on iTunes and they take care of all that. Mm-hmm. So you don't have to do it. So they're like a big middleman in that game.
Right. And that came from a consignment record shop back in 1998, 1997.
It's nuts. But that to me is a big part of their business because there are a lot of independent artists out there, way more, by the thousands more, than artists who are signed or who are big national touring acts, et cetera, et cetera.
Yep.
Right? There's a whole bunch of people trying to do this thing and doing it independently. So they need companies like CD Baby, or like for me, I use Tunecore. So, and it's basically the same thing.
The concept's the same?
Yeah, the concept's the same. As far as the middleman online distribution part of it.
Without naming prices or anything, what drew you to Tunecore versus CD Baby?
Honestly, it wasn't a pricing thing. That's just what was recommended to me.
Okay.
I asked a friend of mine when I was preparing to release the EP. I was like, "Hey man, how did you put your stuff on iTunes?" "Oh, dude, use Tunecore." "What's Tunecore?" And then
proceeded. Okay,
gone.
Cool. Very cool. Very cool. I was just wondering.
But I have used CD Baby, and my stuff is on CD Baby currently because I had to get download cards. So when I ran out of the physical copies of my EP, and that was 2 years ago, around this time actually is when I ran out officially.
Pat Green show. Yeah.
Right, when we opened up for Pat Green at Fiesta Edinburgh, that's around the time I ran out of those CDs. So I had to get download cards to do that, or to sell at that show, because I was out of CDs, right? TuneCore doesn't do download cards. CD Baby does. So, of course, I go and I set up with CD Baby, and I put it in order for the download cards, and it shows that they're not going to get in until, like, after the show, which I'm like, okay, I need it before the show. So I call the customer hotline or whatever, the 1-800 number, and I tell the lady on the line what's going on, and she's, "Oh, they'll be in your mailbox in 3 days." Rad.
Nice.
Love that.
Nice.
Really good customer service
Nice.
from CD Baby.
That's good. That's
Yeah.
good. That's good to know. Because right there, a lot of people won't call. Be like, "Oh, damn, they'll just cancel the order and just go about it." But you called, and that's the main difference. And that goes back to like a generational thing where you won't call. More times than not, you will not call the customer service number to try to get that mitigated. I actually had the same situation with my phone, and I got the stuff worked out. But it's kind of the same thing as far as calling in and being like, "Hey, this is my situation. What can we do? Let's. I want to make it happen. I need to make it. In your case, I need to make it happen. This needs to happen now before the show." And you called, she helped, boom, done.
It's crazy how many things are like negotiable.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know if this is truly on topic, but I've just come to realize that when you make that phone call, you take that little extra step, so many things that can be negotiated that you thought were fixed.
Yeah.
Yeah, always. There's actually an episode on the Tim Ferriss podcast. It was the very first Tim Ferriss podcast episode I'd ever listened to, and it was on the art of negotiation. And this guy talks about negotiating his interest rate on his credit card. And I was like, "You can do that?"
Brian?
You mean it's not based on your credit score?
Right, but
that's crazy.
like you said, things that you think are fixed, and you can always negotiate. That's the number one rule. You can always negotiate. And I haven't tried it yet. I really should have. I kept like joking about it with my parents, telling them because I have my credit card through Wells Fargo. So, Wells Fargo went through the whole fiasco of the whatever they were doing. They were like creating fake accounts.
Fake accounts.
Yeah, whatever they were doing that was, malintent or whatever.
It only cost the CEO a couple $1 million. No big
Yeah.
deal.
That's honestly nothing. It honestly is nothing. Yeah, in that world.
Dang. Anyway, so when that was going on, that's around the time that I listened to that podcast, and I was like, man, I wonder if this is a good time to call them to renegotiate my interest rate.
I remember you talking about that. I'm like, ask Brian. I don't know if you ever did, but I'm like, ask Brian. Brian will be the one to tell you yes or no.
It probably would have, just to keep you satisfied and keep you from spreading like bad rumors. Because it's true, like when it comes to customer service representatives or anybody that really focuses on good customer service, they know that bad reviews or a bad experience will spread even faster than a good one.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So you probably could have, you had a little buffer.
It's the Yelp effect.
Yeah.
I remember when I was working at City Winery in Nashville as a barback, and we had a staff meeting one time, and the manager was telling us that she was really concerned about a couple of bad reviews we had gotten on Yelp, and we're there thinking like, okay, well let's read it, let's let her continue with her story, and let's see where this goes. And so the reviews on Yelp were just totally over the top, like, they were about things that are not in the control of a server or of the person taking care of the customer, firsthand, right?
Okay.
It was just it was just way out of left field. Like, it was just a weird thing to complain about in general, and just not at all very relevant to a server's
Right,
job.
to where it'll affect like the business as a whole, maybe.
Right, but yet these people had a really weird experience or bad experience or whatever, so they decided to leave a Yelp review, which caused the manager to worry. And I remember, like a little elementary school kid, I raised my hand to talk in the meeting. And,
well, that's good on. To me, that's good on you. I've been on the other side where it's like, hold on, like I need to at least finish the point to let you.
At least you didn't just interrupt.
Interrupt the manager.
Right. And then anyway, she calls on me, and I respectfully say, like, hey, when someone goes online to like leave a Yelp review, it's never for a good reason, though. Like, people only ever go online to Yelp to leave bad reviews. No one goes on there to be like, oh, this place was awesome, you should try it. Like, no one feels the need to say that in public or out loud, you know? Only the bad stuff, only the negative. So it ties back to like you said, right now, the negative experience will spread faster than the positive one.
And in this case, negative feedback is not good. In that case of like, about a business, for them, that's not good. Now, it's a celebrity or whatever, or, artist, whatever. I think it helps because your name gets out. But in this case where it's going to affect profit margins and whatnot, yeah, it's going to definitely.
Yeah, oftentimes like managers or the business owners will go on Yelp and like reply to those bad reviews and say, hey, come back in for like a free appetizer. They try to make up for the experience.
And that's good on them, and that's good on City Winery, like the manager, whoever that was, to do that, because they should be doing that.
No, absolutely.
A lot of people don't, or in general, when people, I'm talking about managers of companies or divisions or branches or whatever, they won't do that because it's not their fault, and it's somebody else's fault, and that's not the way it works.
Nope.
From what I'm learning, that's not the way it works, and yeah. So that's good on your manager to do that. It's good on you to, hey, you have something to say. Okay, you waited for the right moment. You said it. You move forward. Good.
Man, I miss working for those people. They were awesome to work for.
You told me a couple of your manager were like really awesome. That's good to hear, because I feel like again, only the negative gets spoken about. It's like, oh, this, oh, that, and it's all bad. It's like, well, let's get some positive feedback in here. Let's all the stuff that goes unnoticed. What is happening? What is that? What is that thing going unnoticed? I want to know.
Yeah.
You listeners, I want to know. Let me know.
It's always good to have good managers, good leaders, But even then, like, I had one really sour experience with one of my managers that, for whatever, okay, so in the restaurant, in the service industry, if you will, at least in my experience, the way it usually went was that you'd show up to work for the dinner shift, right? So this is after lunch. You show up and it's 4 o'clock or 3:30 or whatever. You get there, you do all your prep work. You're making utensil rolls or whatever, setting the tables, et cetera, doing all your pre-shift stuff.
Right.
And then everyone gets together and they have a family meal, which is like something that's prepared by the chefs, and you all eat together, sit down, and then the manager for the night goes over what the special is, or what to try to push tonight, or whatever, or we're trying to push this bottle of wine today, or this bottle, or this food, or that food, whatever. You're going over what the mission is.
Right, for the day. Right. Absolutely.
And, so you're there and you get family meal. So, and then after that, you go back to work and you proceed until the night's through. Well, for whatever reason, on this particular night, I was not able to have my family meal. I think my pre-shift duties as a barback probably were a lot more demanding than a server or even a bartender.
Okay.
Like, I had to go set up all the bars.
Right.
Like, certain things, like taking ice and making sure there was
Restocking.
enough glassware, enough liquor, beer, wine, et cetera, et cetera. And the bartender's job mostly was just to kind of make sure the bar's clean, make sure the area looks okay, looks presentable, et cetera, set up the drawer and, do that stuff. So mine was a little more physically demanding.
Right.
Because I had to do that for every bar in the building, which was 3 bars.
And that could be a lot really quick.
Yeah. So for whatever reason, my time was, a little bit more demanding that day. I think, like one bar was just really bad out of shape. So I really had to spend some extra minutes, like cleaning that up or taking some more alcohol to it or whatever. So I missed out on family meal is the point. Okay. So they had ordered pizza for people who had missed family meal. And so it was behind the concierge's desk. So when I had a minute, finally, everything was running smooth. The night's going. The bar kind of got past its first rush. So it's kind of settled down. I've got 5 minutes to myself for a little bit for whatever I need to do. So I'm going to go to the concierge's desk and get some pizza and go sneak away and eat it really quick. So I go to do that. I grab a couple slices, put it on a napkin, and I walk to a place that I know only employees are allowed, And as I'm like getting the pizza, and then like I barely started walking to like a secluded place, right? And then one of the managers for that night was like just screamed at me right away, like in front of everyone, in front of the whole restaurant, in front of the customers. Like she just goes, "Eddie," and just yells at me from across the room.
Right.
And of course, I just stop in my tracks, and and she just rushes over to me, and she gets in my face, and she's like, "What are you doing? Like, that's disgusting. Like, everyone sees you like carrying that pizza." And I was like, "What the fuck?" Like, like,
Continue.
and I was literally about to walk through the door to the secluded place, like away from the customers. And I was telling her, I was like, "No, like I just got it right now. Like, I was going to go eat this in seclusion because I didn't get to get family meal." And she was just like not having it. She was so pissed. And like I'd already like had it up to here with this manager. Like there had already been some other underlying issues that I kind of let slide. So that was the straw that broke the camel's back for me. And I told another manager what had happened, and then he radioed the head honcho, the GM of the place.
Yeah.
And then and he told her what happened, and then like right after that, he tells me like, "Hey, general manager wants to see you upstairs." He's like, "You're being truthful about your story, right?" I was like, "No, like, why would I lie to you, man? Like, yeah, that's what happened."
Right.
And he's like, "Yeah, so go upstairs and tell her what happened." And then so I went upstairs, explained it exactly how I explained it to, to my other manager, and then it was immediately taken care of, like the next day.
Yeah.
And then I was like, like the manager that got after me like apologized to me and all that, and whatever. And I guess like she was having a bad day, this is what she was saying, and she kind of, was getting a little emotional too quick, and like the stuff was, building up inside of her that didn't have to do with work. So I mean, we're all human. Shit happens. That's cool. I understand that.
Right.
No bad blood. But I got to stop referencing Taylor Swift songs. That's like the second time I've said bad blood. But anyways, yeah, so it was all taken care of very effectively. So poor management meets really good management, and then take that, combine the, into that situation, into that circumstance. And then like even that manager that kind of blew up at me became a lot better of a manager after that. So I was like, I would hope that kind of taught her how to become a better, a better manager, a better leader, or a more detached one anyway.
Right. Okay, so immediately after she called you out in front of everybody, how did that affect your morale immediately? Before you knew how close you were, how did it affect your morale? How did it affect how you felt Even though maybe you weren't in the wrong, but she called you out. She's still your manager. You still should listen to her. How did that affect how you felt?
Well, at this point, there had already been, like I said, some other things that had happened with that manager.
Okay.
So, I mean, I'm the kind of person, like, in that situation, like, I'm not gonna take her shit if I've been taking it for too long.
Okay.
So, I mean, when she called me out over that, I was just kind of like, you're ridiculous. Fuck you. Fuck off. I'm going to eat this pizza. So I was just kind of like, whatever, you know? And I knew also, I guess, that I have to say, like, she wasn't that far above me managerial-wise.
Okay.
She wasn't a high-up manager. She was very, you know.
Like a team lead.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I knew that I could go to a higher-up and talk about,
what's up.
you know, what happened and that it would be taken care of. I had trust that it would be taken care of. So I didn't immediately feel like I was in the wrong. Like I was already confident that I knew I was doing nothing wrong.
Okay.
And I'd actually been told the night before to go back and get pizza when I had some time and go off somewhere and eat. Like I'd already been given permission.
Right, okay. Were you able to tell her that? Like, hey, I got permission.
She didn't let me talk.
Okay.
She, like, you know, just came right up to me and just didn't even give me a second. And of course, like, and it ended with me pretty much just walking off into the secluded area to finish eating my pizza because I was like, I'm just not going to have it with you. Like, it's always like this. So, like, forget it. I'm just going to go tell someone higher up what happened, and that's it.
Was it worse that she was so quick to, like, get on your case about it, or that she did it in front of everybody?
It was worse that she did it in front of everyone. That, I mean, there is some embarrassment with that, right? When you get yelled at in front of customers, like, are you serious? Come on. Like, that's no way to lead.
And your coworkers, too.
Yeah.
And that was a bad place to put the pizza if she didn't want you, you know, to have pizza or have get the pizza in front of everybody.
Yeah. But I guess to be fair, I don't think she was in charge of the placement of the pizza.
Well, she should have been if she was so critical about it.
I guess so. A lot of people, or at least a lot of managers that were there when I was there, are not there anymore. And I think that has to deal with a higher up situation. I think a lot of, you know, there's like this hierarchy of managers, you know, like you have like your GM and then you have like your 3 floor managers and then like your bar manager and then, you know, person that's in charge of this, in charge of that, and whatever. And there's just like this weird hierarchy with all that. And everyone just kind of wanted the next step. Like every manager that was not the GM was kind of dissatisfied with the managerial position they were at and they wanted the next level.
Okay.
You know, because I guess a lot of these people had obviously spent a lot of years working service industry jobs, starting from waiting or bar backing or bartending and then working their way up.
Right.
You know, so they just naturally wanted that next step,
Right.
and they weren't getting it there. So I think a lot of people got really dissatisfied and quit and left.
Well, because City Winery's small. It's not like it's not a huge chain thing. There's only like 5 in the United States or 4 or something.
Less right now. I think the 5th one is being built, and
Okay.
I could be wrong.
Right, because I remember you mentioned that. I don't know the timeline. I don't know any details on the City Winery. I just knew that there's not a lot. It's not a freaking McDonald's or even Roadhouse or it's not like that. It's very there's only a few. So to work in a company and know that there's only so few locations, but yet want to be the GM of every single City Winery, it's almost impossible. It's only good for your resume so you can go into an actual company that allows you to be that GM.
Well, I don't think any of those lower tier managers wanted to be the GM necessarily, but so one of the managers wanted to be bar manager. Okay. And he wasn't getting that job. And the dude who was bar manager was fucking terrible at it. Like he got fired because he was sexually harassing employees. Or saying inappropriate shit. Maybe not like physically sexually harassing,
right,
but like verbal sexual harassment. Right?
Now in today's day, it's the same thing.
Yeah.
Creating a hostile environment.
Yes. And it was like so bad to the point where we had 2 bartenders leave because of that. So he got fired like pretty easily. And then for a long time, I was on the bar staff, right? I was a bar back. So for a long time, we did not have a bar manager. And my problem as the bar back there around that time when that was going on was that we needed more glasses. I did not have enough wine glasses in circulation. And it was a constant problem for me. There's 3 bars, sometimes 4, if we set up an extra one in the venues. And every one of them needed a certain amount of wine glasses. And it got to the point where one of the bars would have to be sacrificed with the amount of wine glasses they had. And they would always be short until they got busier, until I had to make the judgment call that they needed more glasses than the other bars.
Mm.
But it started off as that we had enough glasses for each bar. We had enough glasses in circulation. And then it got so bad to the point where one bar just didn't have any glasses, any wine glasses, white or red.
Right.
Like,
I was saying there's
know?
two different kinds. I know you mentioned that.
Yeah.
For people who are wine drinkers,
connoisseurs.
they know that there's two different types. We don't need to go into details, but continue.
Yeah. So it got bad enough to the point where one bar was completely out of white wine and red wine glasses. Completely.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? So 3 bars, only 2 out of 3 were fully stocked with wine glasses.
Mm.
That's how bad it got. And we didn't have a bar manager forever. And the manager that really wanted to be promoted to bar manager was not getting promoted to bar manager. So, of course, he left.
Yeah.
And then he went to bartender, bar manage somewhere else.
Right.
You know? He looks like Sean McConnell, by the way, this bar manager that
Nice.
I'm thinking of. He looks exactly like Sean McConnell.
Very nice. Speaking of Sean McConnell, going to your lessons, the lessons about the female and the male, like both of them that you've been teaching, or one of them you had taught, and the other one, you've been wanting to, coach up to, reach his full potential.
Yeah, you're talking about the one with the ego problems?
Yeah, all that stuff, all of that.
I mean, the guy in his older 20s, it's very frustrating when someone's ego gets in the way of something. And so he's just constantly trying to deflect the situation back onto me. So instead of like maybe doing an exercise or a technique or, doing something that I'm asking him to do, instead of doing that, he kind of deflects it. And then it's like, well, you're playing the wrong chord over this song. It's like, dude, I blatantly told him, like, I don't care that I'm playing the wrong chord. Like, I want you to execute this technique properly.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's what I care about. But his ego is just very much in the way of his learning. And I hope he realizes that. And I mean, it's not like an uncommon thing in voice lessons for that to happen. I mean, I'm even guilty of deflecting sometimes. Not onto my voice teacher, though. Never onto my voice teacher. Like, I never deflect a problem back onto him or her or whatever, Like, I always deflect it onto, like, an inanimate object. Voice teacher trying to get me to do something, and then I don't want to do it. And I'm like, hey, where'd you get that organic milk? Where'd you get that? It's chocolate? Dark chocolate? I don't like dark chocolate. You like dark chocolate?
And then by the end of the CD, you're like, okay, Eddie, be quiet.
Mm-hmm.
We were trying to warm up.
But anyway, this guy was like deflecting stuff back onto me, and I just like wasn't having it. So he was trying to sing in an Andrea Bocelli tune, and Andrea Bocelli, as we've now come to coin this term, is popra.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Now that I remember this, I'm pretty upset. I didn't stumble upon this idea live on this episode.
Oh man. For everyone listening, Brian had previously coined the term popra before this episode.
So we're using it now, or these two gentlemen are using it now.
So Andrea Bocelli, he sings that one song that like comes out in Step Brothers that Will Ferrell's character sings at the end, and it's freaking hilarious. But anyway, that's Andrea Bocelli, and so he kind of has a very unique style where he mixes an operatic, classical sound and technique to his singing, and he mixes that with commercial-sounding orchestral arrangements, if you will. Like some of his stuff even has like drum beats to it, like drum loops. It's very interesting.
Oh wow, okay.
Yeah. Anyway, so this student of mine, he's trying to learn an Andrea Bocelli tune, and I basically said, it's like, yeah, like, we tried it, and I was like, okay, well, this is more of a classical technique, and I'm not a classical teacher. I was like, I can teach you the classical technique, but, I mean, the place I teach at, we're a, commercial music place. We teach rock, pop, country, top 40 styles, basically like contemporary styles, okay?
Right.
And what I was trying to get him to do was learn the correct technique, which is to mix. Okay, so you're mixing your chest voice and your head voice to get a healthy, naturally well resonating and projecting sound. Okay, it's like it's the healthy best way to sing. Okay, and it's the correct technique for like the majority of things you hear on the radio. Okay, so I'm trying to get him to learn this technique. I'm like, you're not really going to learn it from Andrea Bocelli. Let's listen to a Sean McConnell song because Sean McConnell's a beast. And so,
Right.
so I assigned him Holy Days, and like I'm like trying to get him to like learn this technique and whatnot. And he's really stuck on the Andrea Bocelli because he thinks he's hitting this high note, this high tenor C, which is like heavenly note, for a tenor range. It's just insanely high.
What does that sound like, Eddie?
I'm not going to do it because I'm a baritone. I have hit it, like I've hit it before, but I have never hit it like in a nice sounding way.
In a live situation.
Or live. I would never ever dare try that note live. Anyways, this guy is trying to hit this high note, and he's getting it, but he's not getting it the same way that Andrea Bocelli gets it. Okay, so Andrea Bocelli gets it with his full voice, with his chest voice, with his range. Okay, it's not like in your head voice. And for anyone listening that doesn't know the difference between your head voice and your chest voice, your head voice is the really light part, like this, like Mickey Mouse. Like something like that, right? And then your chest voice is your natural speaking voice, the one that projects the loudest, the clearest, the most, right? Okay. So your head voice has a bigger range to it, okay? But in your head voice, it's not hard to hit high notes because that's where those notes live. Like that's where they pay rent, man. Okay. So anyway, this guy was trying to hit this Andrea Bocelli high tenor C, but he's hitting it in his head voice. Like it's of course it's easy there. Like a lot of people with just a little bit of vocal training, like within 1 or 2 lessons, can hit that note in their head voice. It's not a huge deal. Now, it's a huge deal to hit it the way Andrea Bocelli hits it in his full-on chest and kind of sort of mixed voice, okay? But anyway, in this student's mind, he's thinking like, oh, I'm hitting the hell out of this note. And I'm just kind of over here like, you're kind of not. But, and so I'm explaining to him why he's not, what the difference is, and he's just not having it. It's not getting through his skull. So I hope I wasn't too mean in putting it this way, but this is the way I ended up putting it to him. I told him, so imagine that this high note that you're hitting, that Andrea Bocelli's hitting, is a baseball. And you're the batter in a baseball game, and you're trying to hit that baseball. You're trying to hit that note. So you go up to the plate, and Andrea Bocelli is hitting like against Nolan Ryan's 99-mile-an-hour fastball, whatever, right? He's like hitting the hardest pitch in the world, and he's hitting it out of the park, home run, grand slam, whatever. That's how Andrea Bocelli's hitting that note. The way you're hitting the note is if you took it and you put the baseball on a tee and swung at it. Mm-hmm. It's like you're hitting it in a very dumbed down, well, not dumbed down, that's a terrible way to put it, but like you're hitting it in an easier way,
right.
In a more attainable way that an average person can do, right? And I told him, I was like, there's nothing wrong with that, right? Like his range is much higher than your range. Like Andrea Bocelli is obviously a tenor, which is a guy that has a higher vocal range.
Yeah, think of Vince Gill.
There you go.
Vince Gill, this guy Andrea Bocelli. I guess Sean McConnell, he mixes in there. Huh?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, Sean McConnell would definitely be a tenor. And anyway, so most males end up being basses or baritones. There's not very many tenors. Most will end up being male singers with lower ranges, okay? So I was basically told him, I was like, that note is attainable for you, but not as attainable as it is for Andrea Bocelli. But whichever way I put it to this guy, whether I was trying to have him work on the mix technique or just have him hit notes in the right manner or in the right register, it just wasn't registering to him.
Right.
Okay. And he was just very, very self-absorbed and just very cocky. And I mean, yeah, it's very frustrating when you're trying to teach someone who will not let you teach them. Right.
It's very interesting. One thing I'm going to bringing up Brian Stan again, who was on Jocko Podcast, is JV leadership, which is one of the concepts that Brian brings up, that you think you have to be loved in order to be an effective leader. In your case, I think you told him because, like you said, he's an older guy, so he should be able to take criticism a little better. So with that, you're trying to get him to do his best, to be a good singer. That's your job. That's what he wants, right? So the example that Brian Stan brings up is that let's say you're a manager and you have a team under you, and yet your manager says, okay, I need your team to be at a meeting after work, and it's going to run 30 minutes to an hour. So then you go back to your team and say, hey, guys, so-and-so wants us to go have a meeting. I don't think we should do it. I don't see a point of it, but let's just go do it and get done with. Versus, okay, guys, our GM needs us there. This is an important meeting. There's going to be some important information given to us so that we can do our jobs better, or so we can make sales, or whatever the mission would be for that particular day. So that's something that Brian Stan would call JV leadership, where you think you have to be loved. Another example he gave was where he had to fire a lieutenant while in Iraq. This lieutenant, he was a great guy, and Brian let him know too. He's like, hey, you're a great person. You're a great human being. And, whatever job you go and do after this, you're going to do very good at it. You're going to be very good at it. And that's awesome. But for where we're at now, this point, and I think he was saying that they're going to go on like several missions coming up. So, you're in war. That's life or death. It's not just personal living, that's at risk, your personal finances and whatnot. So this is very much a deeper situation. It's amplified and intensified, as Jocko puts it. But anyways, just that, you're a good guy, but you're not ready yet. You're not well equipped to do this job. And for you, in your case, going back to the singing, like you want him to do that. You want, you're not there to necessarily be his friend, but coach him up so that he's able to accomplish, his goals. And that goes back to like paying for paying for the lesson, paying for tuition, and he should be wanting to get better. So I do agree with you on your approach to that.
Yeah. Now that you're saying all that, it makes me think about, is it really his ego, or is it really just or maybe like not his direct ego, like when you think of ego, you think of someone's pride getting in the way of things.
Maybe even arrogance.
Maybe it's not his pride so much as that he was just trying to save the embarrassment or spare himself the embarrassment.
Mm-hmm.
That makes sense.
So a different form of ego, if you will.
Right. Just
not necessarily a proudful one, but one that's trying to spare his ego from getting hurt. His defense mechanism for his ego.
That's a good way to put it. Defense mechanism is a good one. Do you think, now this is something I thought, since last time we talked, would there be a way to simplify even more what you're trying to tell him? And an example I'm going to give you is, so me and my cousin were going to play basketball at the park here by my house. And we were shooting, and he's getting better as we continue to go play. But what I figured out was that I needed to simplify more. That's what I needed to do, so that because what happens, like, let's say he's shooting a 3-point and he misses like all of them. Let's just say that, use that as an example. Well, then he wants to play horse and he wants to kick my ass. Okay, cool. Let's do that. So I'm taking easier shots, but now he's making those shots. And we're talking like, you see like I guess free throw line. Okay, I'm talking in front of the free throw line. Just basic layups, just the basics. I mean, we're talking like the bare foundation of whatever the goal is accomplished. So do you think you could find a way to do that moving forward to eventually get to that point to where he's like, okay, or now he's fulfilling that technique requirement that you want him to do, which he should be capable of.
I don't know. I'm glad you brought that up, because now it's making me think about it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know off the top of my head if I can get him to execute this technique in a simplified way, because I make him execute the technique on a very basic part of his range, a range that's not high, just something that's right in the middle, and I just have him practice it over it.
Right. Yeah. No, like I said, it's just something that I thought about the other day as I was taking notes and whatnot of my situation, and I did connect it to you. I'm like, okay, he's pushing off. Now, how can we flank that? And how can I think of how to tell you, Eddie, how to maybe simplify even more? Fine, maybe it's simplified, but is there a way to one note at a time, or I don't know what it is. I'm not a teacher. I'm just talking about the simplified flanking to where you get him 10 steps later, and now he's at the step that he should be at. Because remember, while you're teaching, you also have extensive training on the subject. So maybe in theory, there's a way to simplify even that and go a step further into, being able to get him to fulfill the technique.
Maybe. I don't know. The fact that he's not younger, like most of my students are, most of my students fall between the between 7 and 12, if you will.
Okay.
Between that age range. So he's very much in his older 20s. And, I mean, he's a full-on adult.
Right.
So I don't feel the need to flank as much with him as I would with a younger student.
Right. But if he's not doing what you're asking.
My initial reaction to that is, well, he's paying for it. He's old enough. He is an adult, should know how to behave, should be aware of what he's, doing. Or, he should be aware that he's only holding himself back by being either egotistical or trying to spare himself from doing some actual work,
Right. Now,
but at the same time,
go ahead.
Sorry, at the same time, I guess there should be some effort on my end to at least make it known, just in case he doesn't realize it, to make it known that what he's doing is not beneficial to him learning how to sing properly.
I'm gonna take it just one step further in whatever his situation is at home. He's an adult. That's established. But the way he's been given direction up until now may have been too forceful or something. I'm just bringing this up because I go back to Wild at Heart, John Eldridge, and him that he's saying but if his ego's still that big at 29, which we probably know a lot of people their egos are that big at 29 and beyond. But that goes back to their upbringing.
Yeah.
So to being able to coach him and simplify just a little more to where maybe you have him within 3 steps. Now you're gonna have to go 8 steps deeper before he gets to even that first step of that 3-step series that you have for him.
Yeah, you're not wrong.
And like I said, this is just something I thought of after, because we already had the conversation, but just something I thought of. I'm like, man, I do want to let Eddie know, and I want this to be known because it's like, okay, we always talk about, everybody's entitled to their opinion. Okay, well, with that, everybody has a different upbringing for the most part. Now, there's many individual factors that are the same, i.e., divorced versus married parents. That's one thing, but then you can tell that into, okay, what about his mom? What about his dad? Okay, how were they raised? And how are they raising now the child? So, depending on where he's from, the way he was brought up, to me, that also has a psychological effect on his rebuttal to you and him saying no. I do like the way you brought up him being like maybe trying to what was the word you used to like basically deflect. There you go. That's the word. Deflect. His actual pride being hurt. To me, I see that a lot, kind of in students sometimes, where they kind of do that. But to me, the first thing I think about is, okay, what's going on at home? In your student's case, okay, he's already he's an adult. He's older than me. He's older than you. He's older than us in this room. Okay, now why is he deflecting all this stuff? Like, okay, how can I beat that deflection?
Yeah. That would be the next step. But I guess me defeating that deflection would be to call it out.
Right.
Up front.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't know. I haven't gone beyond that because like you told me, hey, I need you to do this. But is there a way to get that technique done in a different way, or is there more steps that you can add to get to that ultimate one step? You don't have to answer. It's just something I'm just bringing up to ponder on that you can think about. Because like I said, we're here to discuss all these different tools that we've all learned through living. That's why we're moving with life. But what are you gonna say, Brian?
No, I think at some point it's not even up to like Eddie maybe, but the fact that this guy's older, not to like generalize, but I feel like most of the time older people are just more set in their ways and they're a little more stubborn about things. So also that his student is older than him, like he might just be not as he may not value the lesson as much, or
Right.
And at some point, it's not so much as like what else can Eddie do, or what is he doing wrong, or how else can he attack the situation. It's more of like, how can this student interpret the lesson better? Like it's not,
right.
It's kind of like that. I saw it in a comic strip, like a little newspaper cartoon type of deal,
Mm-hmm.
where back in the 50s, if the student came home with a bad grade, the parents got after the student.
Right.
And nowadays, the parents are fighting the teacher because
Right.
the student got a bad grade. So
Right.
maybe it's not so much of what else can the teacher do in this scenario,
Right,
but
right,
how is the student absorbing the lesson, or how
Absolutely.
what can the student do?
Right. What can a student do? And I don't disagree. I am sitting in this room to ensure that Eddie's doing the max that he can do. After that, then that's where that argument will stop, or that discussion will stop, because what I want to do is I want to ensure Eddie's success. I want to ensure your success, Brian. I want to ensure our success. In all our avenues that we take as we're living and choosing careers and whatnot. But so that's my only thing. But I don't disagree where it comes to students, where that comes to the parents. Actually, one thing that I'm involved in now with church with my cousin, I guess the head person of the organization that my cousin's a part of now, she was talking about the parents being more a part of the child's life spiritually. Okay, and with that, I don't disagree, because it starts with the parents. The kids should be listening to the parents, and that that falls into the parents. Ultimately, it goes to the parents, right? So that's all I mean, is that there's ties to many different things. At some point, it becomes the students, and now if he doesn't want to continue, then okay, that'd be his choice. But at least if they can get him to that last point, that last little bit, come on, guy, come on, you can do this. I know you can. Let's work on this. As long as that has been done, then Eddie's job is done. But until that point until that is fulfilled, then it goes up to that point. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I don't want to blab too much, but
Definitely.
I feel like it just goes up to that point. I just want to make sure that we're doing that, because I know we want to be better human beings, and this is a part of it. For us individually, for others as human beings. If we're giving our all, if we're doing everything we can that we know it absolutely can. Now, if something pops up in our head, that, oh, what if I did this? Well, then do that, and at least try it out. And then we can, and then, okay, it didn't work, it flopped, whatever the outcome is, maybe it worked. Then, okay, then we can move forward. Or if it didn't work, okay, at least we know there's no what ifs, there's no doubt. And that goes into a whole nother thing that we can talk about as well.
Yeah. I've got to go into something you said just now about, you're basically talking about how all three of us here in this room are very conscious about trying to be better human beings.
Mm-hmm.
I think what scares me, this is going to go off on a deep end here,
Mm-hmm.
but I think one of the things that scares me the most about the world we live in are the people who are not constantly, or at least sometimes, thinking about that.
Absolutely.
About being better human beings.
I know a ton.
Yeah.
Do you think the people that are not trying to be better human beings, that they still get to, let's say, powerful positions, they're not necessarily, the best human beings, and no judgment here, but just for the sake of this scenario, they're not the best human beings, and they're not trying to actively be the best human beings, but they still rise to a position where they oversee other people and important responsibilities within
Right.
a company.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think that people who aren't trying to be human beings get there, or do they fall through the cracks and never achieve those type of positions?
Oh, no, I absolutely think they achieve those positions. What my answer is now is that me as a subordinate is working up the chain of command. The same way I'd work down, now I'm flanking right. When I'm going down the chain of command, I'm working with my subordinates and trying to do this on the right side. When I'm working up the chain of command, I'm going left. I'm just using this as an example, going left side, right. So with that, one thing that I've learned is developing relationships. So you find how you can get on the good side of your your managers. You get on the good side of your manager. But on the good side as authentically though, not on the good side with an agenda. You get on the good side, so that, because okay, this guy, he's not the best manager. That's established. This person is not a good manager. It's okay, what can I do and to mitigate that so I won't have a hard day? Like because you're gonna go home like, oh, like I had such a bad day. My manager made me do this, or oh man, he doesn't like me. So that's why he's giving me all this hard work. Versus, okay, I'm gonna do all this work, develop a relationship, and more than likely than not, I think that his boss, their boss, will see your work, and then you end up equal. You achieve the same seat as he is, and then you eventually surpass him. You will surpass him. He'll only get us to a certain level because they'll see through that transparency. They'll see through that, I think. But my answer to what you're saying as far as like those, I don't believe they fall through the cracks. I believe there's a lot of bad managers out there. Like it goes back to management. I believe they don't. I believe they make it there because up to a certain point, their managers are like, okay, this guy, he wants something. He's not, maybe he's not. They don't say attached, but he's after something, and we want that. Okay, cool. So I do not believe they fall through the cracks. I believe they're all over the world. And me as a subordinate, what I'm gonna try to do is develop my relationship as best as I can, because I want to be a good human too as a subordinate. So why am I gonna be a bad person to this one guy because he's an asshole? I'm not gonna do that. So that's my answer. I don't know, Eddie, if you have something to that, if you want to add something.
I don't know. I mean, the obvious thing that sticks out to me is our current president of the United States, right? Because but also with that being said, it goes back to what you had brought up. If you could read it again about JV leadership.
Yeah, JV leadership. You think you have to be loved to be an effective leader.
Yeah, and I think that is I think the current president of the United States, Donald Trump, is not at all concerned with how people view him. Or maybe he is, because he's always like talking on Twitter about how much people hate him. So
right.
Maybe he is concerned about it. But I guess regardless, he's still doing what he thinks is the best direction for the country.
Right.
Right? Regardless of who's making fun of him on SNL or who's calling him out, at Hamilton in Chicago or whatever, Yeah. So I don't know.
I do have something to say to Donald Trump. Now, I had this situation happen last Monday when I went to this church meeting that I was at. Donald Trump came up in the conversation, and I said, okay. And I didn't go this deep because, I need more time than just 5 minutes of me blabbing and this other. They're gonna see me as this kid that he's blabbing and whatever. Fine, I'm not gonna deal with it. I'll say it here on the podcast. Don't you think if you develop your relationship and got on his good side, you have more influence on him than just bashing him on social media and not getting really anything out of it?
Yeah,
that's my answer. I'm not saying I'm not for him. I'm not against him. But I know if I was in that situation, I know what I would do now, even as a 25-year-old millennial.
Yeah, but you'd have to get on his good side to influence your opinion into his opinion. If you wanted to get done what you feel like you need to get done.
I feel like your personal agenda should revolve around humanity and humility. But even then, you need to get to that point. But like I said, like I said in the beginning of I don't know if it was the second podcast or first one, but this podcast is not superficial. Don't be superficial. If you are, that's where you fall through the cracks. You only get to a certain level and you'll stop. Versus if you are real, in the sense of you're being truthful to yourself and those around you, then you will not fall through the crack. You'll move up. You'll cover up those cracks and you'll seal them up with cement and nothing will get through. That's what I think.
So what does it cost somebody to get on Donald Trump's good side?
Oh, Jesus.
I wish I could find out. I shit you not. I wish I could find out because I would try.
Like, do you end up losing some of your beliefs and do you end up giving way to some of the things he's been saying, even though they go against you?
Right.
Like, what does it take to get on his good side?
Right. Absolutely. No, I wonder because I'd be daring to try. I really would, and I know what I try to do now is I do one thing at a time, and I won't leave that one thing. Like if I meet someone new, I'll do that one thing over and over till I see that it's gone through, and then I move on to the second thing. But I won't do even 3 things at one time. Just one thing. And this is probably not the greatest example, but when I'm at the gym and I say see you tomorrow, I say see you tomorrow every single day. Even if it's Saturday, even if it's Friday, and I know that person's not gonna come work out on Saturday, I say see you tomorrow, and I repeat that. And then eventually, like, oh, I thought about coming yesterday. Or even Thursdays. Be like, Fridays, I'm going to take a day off. That's what a lot of people say. Fine. That's their choice. I'm okay with it. It doesn't affect me. But they're like, oh, I thought about coming yesterday, but I got busy. Okay, but at least thought about it. Eventually, I hope that they would eventually walk in on a Friday. They'd walk in on a Saturday morning and get their ass up at 10:30 in the morning. It's not like it's late. You know, we used to open at 8, like 8 to noon or whatever. And now we move the time so that people could go. And yet, I had some excuses yesterday where like, oh, I don't wake up early. It's 10 o'clock. I'm sorry. I'm not saying get up at 4. I'm not saying get up at 8. We open at 10. You can still get breakfast at 7. Let your food go down and go out for a workout for 30 minutes. So that going back to Donald Trump, let's go back. I would just say I would be daring to try because I feel like I have at least a plan that I would attempt to try. Now, if it don't work, it don't work. Okay. But I have multiple ways to flank in my head now that I would use. So it's not about being effective immediately. It's about being effective, period. That's my perspective. I know we can go into like patience and different things that we've talked about before. I have a very large allotted amount of patience. And so bringing up Donald Trump when our president of the United States, fine. He is still our president. And in the case of management and leadership, he is still the manager. Now, maybe he's a bad leader. Well, that's where I'm going to work up the chain of command. And try to be as effective but still real as possible. Now, going against beliefs, man, that'd be very hard for me because I don't know if I'd want to, but I know that I would try to find what he believed in, use those against him, for the better of like the outcome of like the United States of America. That's what I would try to do. That's one of the things. That's maybe one of the variables that I would mitigate. I would try to find out. I'd want to find out, and then I go that route, and then go from there.
Speaking of like for the benefit of the U.S.,
yeah,
I read a super interesting article this morning that said that many scientists were stuck in one of these countries that he banned, travelers from coming into the U.S. And there was this one scientist who was studying in Switzerland, and she had just gotten a job at Harvard. And she was supposed to be researching TB and how the U.S., how Americans could be directly benefited from her research. And she wasn't allowed to fly to the U.S. because of this new
the thing he signed yesterday,
executive order. Yeah. So, just a little fun fact about that. When you talk about benefiting the U.S., well, this is something that Americans could have had direct benefit from.
Right.
Scientists coming to the U.S. to do their research and find cures, find medicine, or cook up some stuff for some of these illnesses and conditions and stuff. And he's potentially hurting those possibilities.
I will say, too, to elaborate on that, I remember when he was still in the middle of his presidential campaign, and like many other
candidates,
like many other candidates on the Republican side, they were talking about just stopping the huge influx of refugees trying to come in from the Middle East, right, from that part of the world. Because of the potential danger that may be, kind of arising in between all that, or kind of, in the cracks of those people or whatever, amongst them. So, and that's not something I necessarily think is void of logic. Like, it's definitely, like, okay, yeah, like, I get, like, Donald Trump's son made that analogy that got a lot of heat about the Skittles and shit, where he's like, well, if I gave you a bowl of Skittles and I told you one Skittle was poisonous out of how many Skittles are in the bowl, would you still eat a Skittle? It's like, well, it's not really worth it to me to eat a Skittle at that point, right? Like, yeah, like, it's not a terrible viewpoint, in my opinion. But I still don't agree with the policy, like, as far as, like, banning people from coming in. And I'll tell you why, because when I saw that he signed that, and then we were starting to hear the stories of people being detained at the airports and sent away or sent back or whatever, like, it just became that much more real
Mhm.
You know, it wasn't just something people were talking about anymore. It's like, oh shit, this is happening now. This
Yeah.
is a thing now. We're actually denying people this. You know, like there was a humanistic element to that now.
Yeah.
You know, there's a realness to it. And so seeing that happen the past couple of days for me has been like, yeah, this is some BS. I don't know about this. Like this feels wrong. It feels bad.
Okay, I'm gonna be semi devil's advocate, not completely, because I don't disagree with like opposing the order. The only thing is, okay, for that one Skittle, how many of those other Skittles is that one Skittle gonna kill? Okay. Now in that bowl of Skittles, it's only gonna kill that one person. That's gonna but that's in a bowl of Skittles, so you don't know who's gonna be that one, right? And my only thing is that I think while it shouldn't be the turn away, maybe a pause or like a slower progression to filter out that Skittle. I don't think it should be a complete altering or even sending back. But I just feel like very in the middle. Okay, I'll be honest with everybody and with you guys. Like I didn't know what was going on until this morning because posted like they were at the protest this morning, and I was like, "What's going?" So that's when I find like what's going on because we've been out like I've been working on the podcast and then dealing with stuff yesterday, working out and whatnot, and then we had corpus last night, so we were busy all afternoon. So I wasn't engaged with anything that's going on in the mainstream media until this morning that I saw on my Instagram, and I was like, "What's going on?" So I did my research, and I was like, "Okay, like I don't agree with that." Because we are built on that. We are built on coming to this land, right? That essentially took away from my ancestors. I have Indian blood, okay, but okay, that's what it was in the past. We're here now. Okay, what can we do? What's going on? So maybe just a pause to a slower movement to filter out those sour Skittles, not a complete stop. So I'm very much like I said. Maybe my opinion's in the middle. I don't know, but I'm not for it. But I'm not against the further evaluation of somebody. Now, the next question that I had was, how deep do you go into these evaluations of per person? That's a lot of people. That's a lot of time. And who's going to do this work to find these evaluations and do these things? So that's something. There's a lot of variables I don't know. So that's why I feel my opinion is very much in the middle. But if I had to choose one, no, I'm not for it. But I feel like there's options within that order that we could use. Just that ultimate order is not the way to go.
Yeah.
That's what I think.
And going back real quick to what you said about filtering out the Skittles, in that same article that I was reading, somebody like a scientist basically who's working here in the U.S. was saying that it's so unnecessary and un-American, and it's unnecessary because I didn't know this. I don't know this for a fact, but he says that so many people have already been vetted to they're deemed safe to come to the U.S.
Right.
So after all that money and efforts and manpower has been going towards that effort, now it's like a complete ban after you've already vetted people to safely come to the U.S. So it's kind of like we're going backwards.
Yeah. Well, and I saw this morning on my Facebook newsfeed. Are we still calling it that? Newsfeed? Is that still a Facebook term?
I don't even know. I don't have Facebook.
I don't know why I look at you for that question when I know for a fact that you don't have a Facebook. Anyway, so I'm looking on my Facebook newsfeed, and well, I guess like in the recent episode, right in episode 2, traveling through transition, we had talked about college, and we touched a little bit on fraternities. So yes. I talked a little bit about how I had to drop my senior year because of my own financial reasons and stuff like that. So one of our, we didn't call them pledges, but we called them associates. Okay, so the same concept as a pledge, but we call them associates. So one of our associates in our fraternity, at that time that I had to drop, I saw him post something this morning because he's actually of Iranian descent. But he's lived in the UK, and then he's lived in the US, obviously, because he goes to school in Nashville. Mm-hmm. But anyway, his original country of origin is Iran. He's Iranian. So I think he has a visa for the US. I think, and so he falls under this category of people that I think he was saying on his Facebook status that he would have to leave the country within 90 days or something like that. So I was just like, yeah, and I know this dude personally. Like, he's not a terrorist. He's not a terrorist for sure. Sweet guy. So I don't know, man. It's I don't know if anyone not directly involved or working directly with, that branch of politics can really speak to how specific this executive order is.
Right, because even Homeland Security vouched for Trump's order, and in that secluded sense, they should, because he's still the president for now.
Right, it's an order.
That's why it's an order. I don't have much to say than just keep reiterating and blabbing, I guess, on what's going on. Because also it's for those that are protesting, not those that are against, but there's a lot of people that are against it. Fine, myself included. But to make a decision on rational basis, not emotional basis.
Yes.
And I feel like for the protesters, the majority are not, because they feel this way. Now, okay, feelings matter. We're not robots. We're not robots for a reason. We're not androids for a reason. I'm just saying, talk to your senators, talk to your Congress, talk to those people. Those people do as much as you protesting on the streets. Now, it works. Protesting works, but I think it's a way longer road than everybody sending a letter to your congressman or whatnot. That's part of the main. Those are part of the main things, because that's what I see. Because of what what I'm trying to use myself is detaching from a situation to accomplish the mission. And I don't want people to stop. I mean, there's a ton of good people. We've all met them from all over the world now.
Yep.
We're here in the Valley, when I was in Corpus, Nashville, even when I was in Nashville, just meeting cool people in general outside of Texas is awesome. When we went to California, me and Brian went to California, and Vegas and Tahoe and all these places. People from all over the world. And it's so awesome, because that's what America is, and I agree with that. I just want rationalism.
Yes.
That's what I am asking for.
I could not agree with you more.
Yeah, I agree.
I'll never forget seeing Temple Grandin speak at UTRGV here in town. Literally a couple blocks away from where we are now. Anyway, for those of you listening who may not know who Temple Grandin is, she was diagnosed with autism at a very early age, and she grew up, I want to say in the 60s or 50s or 60s. Anyway, she's a much older lady now, okay? But she's autistic, and so people never really thought that she would come to do much with her life because of that, okay? Well, she went on to, become one of, if not the world's leading researcher of agriculture and cattle studies and all this thing. And so she did, and was responsible for so many, so many discoveries as to how cows behave and how animals behave in general. And it went on to really affect the way that we currently ranch now and how we take care of our animals in the ranch life. It has such a huge effect over the animal, and it's just undisputable how many contributions she's made towards the agriculture industry. But anyway, she was speaking at UTRGV, I think last August. So not this past year, 2016, but 2015, August. And I went to go see her speak, and some FFA student, there was a ton of FFA high school kids there, and one student decided to be that student to ask a political issue. The hot topic at that time was fracking.
Yeah.
Okay. So the student decides to ask, totally off topic, of course, because everyone's asking about agriculture, and this student decides to ask about how Temple felt about fracking, right? And it's one of those hot topics to where you're either on side A or you're on side B, and depending on what side you're on, your mission is to bicker the shit out of the other side until they agree with your side, which never happens. So, Temple took a really middle ground answer, and what she basically said, I'm going to kind of paraphrase it, but what she basically said was, there are a lot of people on the extremities, on both ends, arguing for their side and trying to belittle the other side. And what that leaves us with is very few people in the middle to actually come up with rational working solutions. And that's all she said. And I was just like, man, that is so freaking true.
So good.
So true.
And I wasn't like that before 2016, even before May of 2016. But going over it for, from May until December and into now, yeah, I definitely try to do it myself. And then I do, I will say, promote, rationalism and possibilities, and not leaving out possibilities.
It's very important to detach. First and foremost, I mean, this goes back to what Jocko talks about the most probably on his podcast, right? About detachment, emotional detachment from any given situation to be able to make a rational decision on the situation at hand. Mm-hmm. Which is, again, going back to my obsession with the show Shark Tank. So Kevin O'Leary, who's one of the sharks, he usually sits in the middle. He's the bald-headed guy. Mr. Wonderful is what they call him.
Yeah.
But he's always like sometimes brutally honest, but for the most part, he's just honest with everyone. And not everyone takes that very well, his honesty.
Yeah.
But he's a very rational dude. Like, he never lets his emotions get in the way of a deal. Like, he's solely a numbers guy. He doesn't get any feels. He's like nearly a robot.
Yeah, I rarely agree with him just because of that. Because it's like, dude, you're not a robot. You're a human being. But his own stats speak for himself. So you can't argue with that. In his case, you can't argue with that. It's just not my business approach. That's not my approach. That's his approach. It's worked for him, obviously. So it's all good. I mean, in that case, that's where you agree to disagree. You leave it, but you leave it alone. You don't argue why yours is better than the other. You leave it alone. You keep going. You either work with them or you don't work with them. And that's as easy as it can end. Start, continue, or end.
Yep. Every now and then he has an emotional moment on that show, and you think he's going to do something humanistic, like make a decent offer. And then he's just like, your story is so touching. Let me tell you, like, I've got tears in my eyes. And he's like literally wiping tears from his eyes like he's actually crying. And then he's like, but your numbers are so weak. I cannot justify doing this deal. You're dead to me. Like, damn it, Kevin. You asshole.
So close.
Oh, man.
No, but definitely in business, I think rationale is so important.
Yeah. I'm going to read this real quick because I found it in the book Meditation by Marcus Aurelius. This is on book 1. He lists a bunch of characteristics that he learned from various people throughout his lifetime. And this one's from Apollonius. Moral freedom, the certainty to ignore the dice of fortune and have no other perspective, even for a moment, than that of reason alone. To be always the same man, unchanged in sudden pain and the loss of a child, in lingering sickness, to see clearly in his living example that a man can combine intensity and relaxation. The main thing I'm going to bring up is that he says to be a man of reason even in the loss of a child, your child. Now, think of that. Think of having a child and losing your child and still trying to be a rational person. That is the ultimate time that you will never be a rational person. And that's what I wanted to point out from that sentence, from that little paragraph.
I mean, I guess it's important to have those humanistic moments that kind of ground us, right? Because we are emotional human beings. We react on emotion. So, and that's important, not to discredit emotion at all. It's needed.
Yep.
Right? We are instinctual human beings, right? And emotion is part of that instinct. Mm-hmm. So it's necessary.
Right. Yeah, I'm just pointing out, like, imagine being so reasonable. As I'm not saying you should be, but at least be until that moment. Be reasonable, and if you're sick, oh well, you're sick. Keep working or don't work, but get what you need to get done or rest. Which I would suggest rest. If you're sick, rest. There's nothing wrong with resting if you're sick. Getting some medication, whatever. But just the depth of the fact of like trying to make a good decision after a loss of a child.
I was gonna say if you're sick, you probably should rest, and there's the rationale: rest, stay home, get better. Otherwise, you're gonna go to work or wherever you're at with your friends, and you're gonna endanger the entire organization.
And continue to be sick yourself.
Yes.
And for I'm just gonna throw this in there for a plug, but my BJJ school, if you're sick, don't go. Like, coach won't let you in. He'll send you home.
Yeah, like it doesn't make sense rationally. Don't let your pride get in the way and say, "Oh, I never call in sick, or I never miss a day of work at school, or jujitsu, or I never miss the gym." No, like you need to rest. You need to get out of there because you're gonna endanger the entire organization.
I can't stand when parents bring their children in for lessons
They're sick.
when they're sick. Yeah. Oh my God. It's the worst.
You should not let them in.
I can't though, because it's their money. But there should be some kind of middle ground there. I should probably talk to my bosses about that.
I was gonna
There
say
should
talk to somebody, because that then leaves germs in your room, and then other kids come in, and at their age they're prone to all that stuff. What makes me sad is seeing kids at school sick.
Yeah.
It's like, human being, take your child to the doctor now, please.
Yeah.
Please do yourself and your child a favor. He's sick. She's sick. Take them to the doctor, please.
And like for mine though, they're always like in the extremes. Like they always come in with strep throat. Why in the hell?
Oh my God.
Why in the hell would you come to a voice lesson with strep throat? Why? And you know that like I sing for a living, so why are you gonna put that on me? You're gonna try to give me strep throat? You're gonna put me out of my business for 2 weeks? Come on, like be a little more considerate.
Yeah.
That's annoying. I have like 5 bottles of Lysol in my room.
As you should.
Spray down everything. I get it. Like, you don't want to miss out on your money, but we can always reschedule. It's not a big deal.
Yeah, especially if that's an option. Definitely. I mean, what I'm going to bring up, when I was in retail, I learned how to call in sick. Because before I would hear from adults that, raised me or were a part of my life, like, oh, I didn't call in sick because I need to work. I can't miss a day. And they have 1,000 sick days, and they call in once. I'm 1,000's exaggerating, but you might as well have 1,000, because if you have over 300 days of sick time, you could take a year off, and they couldn't tell you anything.
Another thing that a fraternity brother and a very good friend, what he brought up, one time he just wasn't feeling at his best. He wasn't necessarily physically sick. Maybe he was stressed or lack of sleep. But what happened was an older coworker told him, he's like, dude, just call in sick, go home sick. And my friend, he's very prideful, and he's also a very rational person, but this hadn't hit him just yet. He just didn't want to call in sick. He's like, no, I have work to do. People are depending on me. I got to get things done. And his older coworker said, he's like, well, what are your sick days for? For when you're sick. And why are you sick? Or when do you consider yourself sick? Like, when you can't perform at your 100%. You're not going to do your job right, and you're going to end up jeopardizing, the objective or your work or someone else's work.
Mm-hmm.
And my friend was like, you know what, you're right. If I don't feel at my best and I have sick days, I'm going to go home, get my rest, get better, and come back at 100%, when I can.
And for managers out there that don't send your employees home sick, oh, hey, can you come in just for a few hours to cover a shift? No, I'm sick. Managers, let them get better, because then you get sick, and then I'm sick, and then because you are on salary, your days are different from theirs, so you don't really get affected. Hey guys, I'm out today. I'll see you tomorrow. Hey guys, I'm out another day. I'll see you tomorrow. And then I know I experienced that in retail, because the PTO and stuff was different. So, but that was the general saying was like, oh, okay, let's say I'm sick, literally. And I'm like, hey, I'm calling in sick. I have sick time. Just use that. Fine. And then, like, hey, can you just come in for like 3 hours? I just need you just to cover this piece of the time. The rush or whatever. And before I would say, yeah, I can go in. I'm okay. But eventually I was like, no, like I'm sick. I cannot go. I cannot function. And then I remember I did go once with the flu. and that was terrible.
Dang.
Yeah, but I went in, and it was because it was truck day. You know what truck day? I told you about what truck day is.
I remember.
Basically, every Monday at this job, we'd unload truck. So I was the guy who unloaded every single box that every Monday, and I did that for over 52 weeks in a row, and I never missed until I realized, like, I think at some point I got sick or whatever, and freaking dust and like the particles and shit in there, it's terrible. Anyways, that's a whole different podcast. Anyways, but I got to where it's like, okay, I cannot function. I can't walk, dude. I cannot walk. So for managers listening, if they're sick, let them be sick. Now there are exceptions, like if you're BSing, you use sick time for not sick time. Okay, those you after some time you can pin them out, especially if they've been there over a year. You can pin them out. But I'm talking about the people who are sick. Let them stay home. Tell them to go to the doctor and get better.
Get it taken care of.
Yeah, get it done. Let them come back 100% tomorrow, the next day, and everything will be fine. I feel like if you don't have enough employees to cover that one shift, there's something wrong in the system. And that's where like I can go back to leadership and whatnot, but I'm not going to.
Well, I have a story for exactly what you just said.
Proceed.
So, again, going back to the bar back in days. Going back to my bar back in the days. Grandkids. No, but so when I was bar backing still at City Winery, for a while there, I was legitimately the only bar back in the entire place. And this was the case for probably 3 months. And during that period of time, when I was pretty much the only bar back, I got hurt really randomly in a way I've never been hurt before. Like, I guess I had maybe just pulled a muscle or something.
Broke a nail.
So somehow I ended up with a bruised rib, which if you've ever like hurt your ribs in that way before, like I might sound like a wuss, but it sucks. Like,
well, I'll say it takes a lot to do that, even that.
Yeah, well, it sucks. It sucked just having a bruised rib.
Yeah.
Like, it was terrible. Don't know how it happened, but it happened, and I had a bruised rib. And it was, like, by far the worst pain I've ever experienced, just because of the fact that you have so much trouble breathing when your ribs are hurt. It sucks to breathe. It's like the one thing you have to do to stay alive. It's like a requirement. It's like you have to breathe to stay alive, and you can't do it. And anyway... And I'm supposed to, on average, walk 13 miles a night and up and down stairs, making sure these bars are stacked and good to go. And I can't do that, like, with a bruised rib, sorry, exaggerating my ailment. But anyway, and I told my managers that, like, I went to the doctor and I got checked out, and they advised me to rest, and I had a bruised rib and whatever. And I never heard back from anyone. So I had to go into work because no one ever told me that I could take the night off. I was like, just no one got back to me. So I was like, well, I'm not going to not show up to work. Like, the building's going to fall apart if I'm not there. Like, I'm not wrong though. Like that's such a cocky thing to say. Like, oh, the place is going to burst up in flames if I don't show up to work tonight. But yeah, like pretty much. Like if there was not a bar back working, like shit got turned upside down. Yeah. And then bars would not get stocked, and then, and then there's no alcohol to sell to people, and then there's no cold beer to sell, or there's no chilled white wine to sell, or we're out of this, but no one else knows, so everyone's frantically looking for it when it's not there. Like the place really does fall apart without a bar back.
And I'm just saying,
I'm the whole reason that place is still going. Not really, but
one
anyway.
thing I'm going to add to that, or I guess different, that's the same thing. Anyways, is different managers running the same place differently? That affects a lot too. Like, you have one manager that does things one way, and so people like that way. And maybe it's JV leadership. I don't know. Going back to like wanting to be loved, so they run a certain way. Then you have another manager that's a little more stern and does things by the book. And people like him less, or maybe people like him more because he's by the book and he's good to go. They prefer that. And so when you have one manager working one day, let's say you have them flopping each day. Like, one's Monday, one's Tuesday, one's Wednesday, one's Thursday, right? So throughout the week, you have them flopping back and forth. I've seen it be very hard to accomplish one thing because you have two different styles of management, two styles of leadership, in essence, to accomplish the same thing of sales.
I think it's necessary to have that balance, though, because I enjoyed having that balance. Like, I had the managers that were very stern and, like, numbers people and rules people and, like, abide by the rule, like, stick by that, stick by the book. And but then I had the managers that were like, no, we can sneak behind here and take a shot together real quick, like like something that like you definitely shouldn't like ever do.
Did they have the same mission?
Oh yeah, no, everyone was still aligned with the same mission.
See, and that I'm talking about the ones who aren't.
That's when it works.
My fault.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. No, you're good. That's what I'm saying. Like I want everybody to give examples of what they've seen. But while that's one where everybody has the same mission, I've dealt with those that aren't, because like no, and I've had that one who's by the book and he's good, but he's like, no, my way's the way. He goes to that second step of JV leadership, saying my idea is best. This is the way it's done, and this is the way it's gonna be done, and that's it.
Okay, so now that I understand what you're saying, I do have a story back to this same job. Man, this podcast, we're just going to title this podcast, Eddie Works at City Winery. Like, that's... Anyway, so there's this one time... Okay, so City Winery has a very nice upstairs lounge, which I think you remember. Did we go up there when you were...
We didn't go upstairs.
We
we were just down, yeah.
It's a nice little lounge, man. They got a cool little stage.
The whole place is awesome. Like, it's just a cool experience.
Yeah.
But continue.
Anyway, so... In the lounge, they usually have like private events, like wedding receptions or little concerts, stuff like that. Mostly wedding receptions. Let's not kid. It's mostly wedding receptions. And so, of course, this would be around the time where, as I was explaining earlier in our conversation, that we were just so short on glasses, on white and red glasses, that we're so short that one of the bars just was not going to have them. Right? Okay. So this was my situation. I've got 4 bars. I've got the restaurant bar, which is bar number 1. That's priority number 1. That's the face of the restaurant, or the face of the business, the restaurant. Okay. And then there's the venue bar. Okay. Priority number 2. Very close tie to number 1. Okay. So the restaurant was different from the venue in the sense that in the venue, it was like a dinner and a show. Like you ate and you ordered and they brought food to you and you did all that. And then they took it away and then you watched like Steve Earle do a show, acoustic or whatever, okay? And then the restaurant was solely just eating, okay? Just food, and then you leave. So priorities were restaurant, venue bar, and then there was a VIP area in the venue that also had its own bar, so I had to take care of that bar too. So that's 3 bars. Now, on these special occasions where we had the lounge in use too for like wedding receptions and stuff, I'd have to take care of that bar as well. So that's 4 bars now to take care of in one night, okay? Easily done when you have enough materials and enough tools for success to do that with, okay? Not so easy when you don't. So in this case, I don't have enough glasses to distribute evenly. So the situation for this night was I had like 90 people, 90 customers in the lounge, in the private wedding reception, and then I had a sold-out venue, and then I had like, it was like a Friday night in the restaurant, so it's going to be packed. So this is like doomsday for me, basically, okay? Like I'm going to be a chicken running around with my head cut off. Like this is going to be nuts, okay? Sold-out venue again, Friday night in the restaurant. It's going to be a lot of people, and then 90 more heads in the lounge area for the private event. So before the private event even starts, I go up to to the manager that was in charge of running that private event. She's the liaison for that private event, if you will. And I tell her, hey, here's the thing. We don't have enough white wine or red wine glasses for your bar for this private event. So how would you feel if we served wine in this glass? So we had enough of a particular glass that could also be used as a red wine glass in the appropriate nature of serving wine, if you will, in the professional nature of serving wine. It would be acceptable to serve it in this kind of glass as well. So I tell them, we have enough of this kind of glass. How about we bust these out and I get you guys these glasses and you use them as universal glasses for both white and red wine. Okay? Because I got to take care of the restaurant and the venue downstairs and make sure they're all set to go with their glasses. And this manager just was not having it. Like, she's flipping on me, and she's like, no, like, these people paid a lot of money to have this space reserved and to have their wedding reception here. So we're definitely going to, like, make sure they have the appropriate glassware for whatever wine they're going to order. And my argument was that the restaurant is the face of the business. Okay, it's the first thing people see when they walk in. It's the number one thing. So the restaurant comes first. And then I explained, now the second part of the business is the venue, the live music aspect of this whole setup, of this whole franchise. So that's number two. Now, not that this wedding reception is not important, but it falls back in priority to what's going on tonight. So I basically overruled her decision, and I'm basically like, okay, so I'm basically not asking anymore. Like, I'm basically telling you, like, this is what's gonna happen.
Okay.
Sorry. Like that's all I can do for you.
So
Sorry.
then what happened?
So she just wasn't having it. So I just, again, like, I'm gonna overrule her decision on that. So I can't do it myself. So I immediately go to the superior. I go to the GM, and I tell her, hey, this is what's going on. This is what I told so and so. They didn't agree. I'm going to let you make the final call because I feel so strongly that that's not the right call in this situation. So I'm going to let you make this call after I explain to you what's going on. Mm-hmm. And so the GM ended up agreeing with me and siding with me that the venue and the restaurant come first and that the wedding reception comes third.
Right.
So go in that priority. And that's what we did. But yeah, there was I kind of painted the disagreement very lightly. It was not a light disagreement.
Well, it was a disagreement nonetheless. So yeah, I get that.
Well, like, not that the manager herself was basically yelling at me, but my peers, like the wait staff, the servers, who were working the wedding reception, who wanted good tips that night, of course. Who want to succeed and have the right tools to do that, which is fair.
Right.
They were very upset with me to the point where we were basically having not a shouting match, but it was very bitter. Mm. It was not a good night for that.
What did you learn from that?
I don't want to say I didn't learn anything, but it was one of the few situations where I had to be smart enough to say that what my boss was telling me was not gonna happen, and that I had to go to a higher up boss and get it reversed. Like, I had to surpass that level of leadership to ensure ensure the success for everyone that night, right. Not just for the wedding reception or for the venue or for the restaurant, but I mean, that's the only way it would have worked for everyone. And I knew that within my heart of hearts, because I knew how to do my job inside and out, left and right, up and down, whatever, like, I knew how to do my job so well that I knew if we did not do what I was suggesting, the night was going to be a failure.
Right.
So, like, I had to surpass that leadership call and go to the next one, which is the GM, and convince her to take my side, basically, which she did without even me having to really do much convincing, because she already, was of that mindset. So, as far as my peers being upset with my call on that one, and I mean fairly so. Like, I totally understand why they were upset with that, because they want to use the appropriate glassware and just make sure they're doing everything they can to get good tips. Mm-hmm. Okay, I get it. I totally freaking get it. But they were so bitter about it to the point where we were just like trading off nonsense to each other, like stuff that just doesn't even matter. And for whatever reason, I decided to engage in that. So I really shouldn't have engaged in that back with them, but I did. Okay. But you live and you learn, and you get caught up in the moment. Shit happens.
That's why I asked, what did you learn?
Yeah. But it's also, even though we traded off like nonsense, I don't want to say insults, but we just traded off a whole bunch of choice words that were not relevant, to getting anything done, to making any progress. Even though we traded off those words to each other, I had already learned this from working security, the venue security, not to take anything personally. So I was like, whatever they're saying, I'm just not going to take it personally, because I know at the end of the day, like, this is what needs to happen, this is what needs to get done, and that's what's going to happen.
Right.
So that's it. Sorry.
Right. Yeah. No, good.
I'm pretty sure their tip out was not affected by the glassware. And I'm pretty sure the people did not care at the wedding reception
Right.
what alcohol or what glass they were drinking their alcohol from, so long as they were having their alcohol.
Mm.
Number one cause, number one concern.
Yeah, no more thing. Very cool. I think we're going to call it there. Instead of our normal sign-off, I am going to read a piece from this book that I spent the majority of my 2016 year reading and rereading and studying and trying to apply it to my life on a daily basis, called Extreme Ownership, How U.S. Navy SEALs Lead and Win, by Jocko Willink and Leif Babin. They both served in Iraq, Task Unit Bruiser. They came out with this book that has a lot of principles that you can use for leadership, but you can also use them for cliche life. And I do use a lot of them on a daily basis. So here we go. When subordinates aren't doing what they should, leaders that exercise extreme ownership cannot blame the subordinates. They must first look in the mirror at themselves. The leader bears full responsibility for explaining the strategic mission, developing the tactics, and securing the training and resources to enable the team to properly and successfully execute. If an individual on the team is not performing at the level required for the team to succeed, the leader must train and mentor that underperformer. But if the underperformer continually fails to meet standards, then a leader who exercises extreme ownership must be loyal to the team and the mission above any individual. Extreme ownership requires leaders to look at an organization's problems through the objective lens of reality, without emotional attachments or to agendas or plans. It mandates that a leader set ego aside, accept responsibility for failures, attack weaknesses, and consistently work to build a better and more effective team. Such a leader, however, does not take credit for his or her team's successes, but bestows that honor upon his subordinate leaders and team members. When a leader sets such an example and expects this from junior leaders within the team, the mindset develops into the team's culture at every level. With extreme ownership, junior leaders take charge of their smaller teams and their piece of the mission. Efficiency and effectiveness increase exponentially, and a high-performance, winning team is the result.